until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a simple that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature, the mean extorted it. They forging it, if news ain't good informant to informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we port and ships important gifts. Of course it is, what extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?
In a world. All right, what's going on, fam? It's been a minute. So tonight's stream is Technocracy, the Trump card, and I gotta say I've been waiting a long time to do this stream, to cover this topic, to start talking about this topic, because back in 2019 I was doing quite a few videos. I did quite a few different streams on my prediction in terms of Trump and what he would do and what it meant. And a lot of the stuff I said sounded far-fetched. A lot of it'll sound far-fetched still, actually. You guys can give me feedback on the sound. So I said, Trump's going to team up with Elon. He's cast into the world play as the hero. And he's going to help usher in this new world order. I used to use the phrase golden age over and over. And people thought I was crazy saying he's going to work, hand in hand with Elon to usher in this technocracy. And I did get some things wrong. I thought that Trump was going to win the 2020 election. And what's so funny is my prediction actually went further back than that. 2018. So coming off of 2017 and 2018, I had started researching the QAnon thing a lot. And so when Q first came out in 2017, I researched it a ton, and like obsessively, my friend and I did. Because if you back up a little bit more before that, I was looking into the whole Trump thing. I'm like, everything the mainstream news is saying about this guy is stupid, not true. Sounds good. So what's that all about? And so I had my normie reaction, which was, there are levels to it, right? But I would consider this a normie reaction now, obviously. That, well, the mainstream news is always lying. And so whoever the mainstream news is attacking, they're doing that by extension of these giant companies, big pharma, big money. So that's the real threat, right? That's who has at least the potential to counter some of their corruption. And so it's like, oh, Trump is racist. Go look into it. Trump's not racist. He didn't say anything racist. The stuff he's saying isn't racist, but they're claiming it is, et cetera, et cetera. So then I started getting this really low vibrational debate world where I'm debating like leftists and liberals about Trump, and he didn't say this. Watch the next 10 seconds, and that's out of context, and da 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 da. So I had a short period where I was doing that, and I did really kind of get into it. And it was much less about Trump. It was more about just politics in general. So this is 2015 going into the election, and 2016 Trump wins. I find out about flat Earth. Start researching that a lot. So talking to my ex about Trump and then flat Earth, and I remember really getting into the philosophy behind some of it in terms of like politics. So conservatism and blah blah blah. So we'll just expedite this, but the point is, I was really I kind of defended Trump for a bit, right? I'm like, a lot of the stuff that's being said about him isn't true. And then QAnon came out. So my friend and I were looking into it, and a lot of the stuff in the QAnon boards were true from the jump. They were pointing out things I already knew to be true. And it was basically just a roadmap saying this cryptic roadmap, right? Research this, 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 and this, and if you go do it, you'll start to connect all the dots. And it's really big players, really big money, lots of corruption, all kind of swapping hands. All of our politicians are just, you know, selling out to lobbyists, and basically the entire government, the entire political front, it's all just a game. They're all on the same side, and red, blue, put it together, you get purple, color of royalty. They look at themselves like the higher class. It's all just a game, and they're selling out to foreign interests, selling America out, blah, blah, blah. Now, a lot of that's true. A lot of that is still true. A lot of that is still our enemies. A lot of those are the same entities pushing out the propaganda, sexualizing children. You know, Side note: while we're talking about that, I'm doing a debate in person in New Jersey, Debateacon for Modern Day Debate. I believe that is the 16th, February the 16th, on whether or not kids should be allowed to transition. You heard that right? Someone's going to debate me and defend the other side of that. Anyway, we're getting hit with all kinds of stuff where we have the nuclear family being attacked, and we have the male and female roles flipped on their heads, and like push the woman out of the house, get her to be a boss babe, and frankly, the Jezebel spirit is ingrained into society. At the same time, they feminize men, they emasculate them, they feminize them, they demonize masculinity, they demonize femininity, to the point now, if you just talk to your everyday woman and say the word submission, they have like a visceral reaction. They think it's a bad word. They think it means they don't have autonomy or agency. They don't understand the scriptural interpretation of that. And the implications of that, and removing the mother from the house, of course, then puts the child into the hands of the state. And so they've flipped our whole entire society upside down. And the reason I'm bringing that up is it's all of these big companies doing that. And the Q boards were pointing out a lot of this corruption. And there's a really dark underbelly to it, right? There's a really dark underbelly in terms of pedophilia, abuse of children, all kinds of crazy dark things. And really, depending on how far you go into following the leads there, you run into some dark stuff. So I did that a ton. And I'm like, dude, this is crazy. This is things I knew, things I didn't know. It's so on point. It was making some predictions that were happening. It was making predictions, and a lot of the stuff didn't really pan out. And then I started saying stuff like, this was like a few weeks. I started saying stuff like, "Oh, misinformation is necessary," and trust the plan, and the white hats are saving the day," or whatever. And so I started to realize pretty quickly it was a psyop. There was a lot of truth in it, and it seemed to actually be coming from some inside information, but it was an operation. And I realized this within just a couple of weeks, a few weeks, whatever it was. And so once I kept kind of putting that together around that time, so again, this is like shortly after QAnon was a thing, I started predicting that they were going to use Trump as a hero to usher in a new system. That's a long time ago. I mean, that's 8 years now, right? So around 8 years ago, I started saying, okay, if there's a psychological operation, now a lot of people were just like, oh, Q is really true, or oh, Q is just completely fake. No, a lot of the stuff in Q is true. It's a psychological operation. It looks like a military operation with some intel, right? Access to intel. So, what are they saying? The narrative is that that there was basically a group of people within the military that had enough, and they were going to take America back, and that there were stipulations within our Constitution and various avenues to where you can basically drain the swamp, as you've heard it coined, and that they were going to try these people for treason and military tribunals, and they were going to take our country back from the inside out. And so that they approached Trump with the idea of him being the guy that was gonna kind of be the front or help spearhead it. So they approached this is the story, right? So they approached Trump saying, "Look, our government and country is super corrupt. We wanna take it back. If we don't do it now, it'll go down forever. There'll be no coming back, and we want you to help us." And that he agreed, and that since then he's been working with the quote unquote white hats, this benevolent, well-intended, heroic, courageous group of anonymous people behind the scenes at different levels of our military who have decided to take America back for the patriots. Okay, that's the narrative. Well, it wasn't too long until I came across something I'll show you really quickly, where this is a very old tactic. This is not something new. And that is, of course, government rolling out an operation to the public to get them to believe that the corruption is being taken care of. And this is called Operation Trust. So let's read it here. All right. Operation Trust was a counterintelligence operation of the state political dictatorate of the Soviet Union. The operation was set up, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you can read all about it here. And it says the Soviets did not organize trust from scratch. The White Army had left sleeper agents, and there was also royalist Russians who did not leave after the Civil War. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's called Operation Trust, and it was counterintelligence, meaning that the Soviet Union, what they did was they did something similar to this. They infiltrated and started a movement. So they took some leftovers, kind of infiltrated these different grassroots movements, and then they organized a bigger movement. And it was the idea of going against the corrupt establishment. The power structure that was there was super corrupt, and that they were going to go fight it. And it was under the disguise of like a grassroots foundation, right? Now, why did they do that? Well, for one, they were able to be able to directly monitor the group of people that were potentially rebelling or would potentially be a threat to any of their plans, right? This is all very simple stuff. The government is super corrupt. They have lots of plans. There's some people within the population that aren't going, and then they're going to expose them, potentially even combat them. So they're now a threat logistically. So they infiltrate those groups, right? So they infiltrated them, and then they began to guide them, and it also allowed them to identify dissidents. It's called Operation Trust. Now, very interesting that it's called Operation Trust, and that QAnon is constantly saying, "Trust the plan. Trust, 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 trust," is the whole idea. Just trust us. We got you. It's a movie. Sit back and enjoy the show. Patriots, trust the plan. Okay. Okay. So some people already maybe knew that, some didn't, but I was just laying that out so you know the overarching umbrella here, the idea here. So I realized pretty quickly, okay, this is an operation. I found out that Operation Trust was a thing. I'm like, okay, this is exactly what this is. And that would mean one thing. So either A, it's just all completely fake nonsense, doesn't mean anything, nothing to it. That's kind of what the mainstream will tell you. And then there is the other option that the story's true. It's this organic from, you know, from like patriots within the military. They want to take our country back. It's this organic patriotic movement, and they went and got Trump because he wasn't a politician. He was outside of the system. He always loved his country. He was a perfect candidate. They went and approached him. He agreed to basically take America back. He's been working with them from behind the scenes. And there's a million different versions of what people claim is going on, right? Trump never left office, that there's just a corporation that is the United States, and that's what's really going on, and whatever. There's obviously the, "Oh, well, they did actually steal it from him then, but, this one was too big to rig." There's all these different takes. So, obviously, the other option, and what I would say is pretty clearly the case, is a lot of the information is true. There is actually inside information, and that's what gives it its credibility. Now, the average person doesn't look into it enough to even know that, but at one point, it could go mainstream, meaning they could flip the switch at any point in time, and they could reveal some of this information. And so they were clearly making predictions and telling you what to look for, and it was happening. A lot of the stuff was happening. So there's some type of inside information involved here. Okay, if that's true, then what that appears to mean is that Trump was selected for a very specific role and not the one that Q is claiming. Um, but sort of what Q is claiming, right? So to long story short, I realized that it was all a psyop and that Trump had been selected. And all presidents are selected, but they're not all selected with this big of a task, right? They're all written, they have different roles in the play. Trump was cast as the hero, it appears. So I thought he would get back in 2020. I was wrong about that. If you take all my predictions, because then I really start publicly talking about it, because I'd said for years. I said, like the last half a year or whatever leading it like the final little bit of his term, he was gonna start to do a lot of this stuff with the QAnon thing to build into his next presidency or the next election or whatever. I said that he was gonna get back in, and when he got in his second term, right, and he was in the second term, he was gonna like drain the swamp, and it was gonna be this huge thing, but it was gonna be a psyop. And in order to usher in the new system, they were gonna have to get everyone compliant and distracted, and they would have to believe it's something real and actually invite in these changes and these updates. So I started making like very hyper specific predictions. I said he's going to team up with Elon Musk because if you look at Elon Musk, he is already doing everything that you would want for a new world order, a digital surveillance system, right? Elon checks all those boxes. You really look into the history of Elon, the dude is just insanely goofy just on its face. He's like super uncoordinated and feminine and weird, but and just we're told that he has an extremely high IQ, but he can't really speak or anything. So, he looks like a front man, but look at what he's doing, right? What's accredited to him. He is trying to automate vehicles, right? Self-driving automated vehicles. Just look at iRobot, right? They take over his car. They can just take you to the police station anytime they want to. They can track you at all points. They can cut off your ability to move around, right? They control your transportation. So fully automated, self-driving electric vehicles are not a good thing. Now they are a good thing in the sense that if they didn't require tons of the very fuel they're supposedly helping us with, and the coal and whatever to actually charge the batteries, and you didn't have to use tons of those resources, quote unquote fossil fuels, to mine them and et cetera, then that would be cool. But the idea of it is good. The truth is, side note, right? Even a seventh grader for one of her little like projects or whatever, she showed that there's certain paint that has a very high retention percentage in terms of electrical storage, right? So like solar powered paint, like 70-80%. A lot of the stuff that's commercially available is anywhere from like 15 to maybe 45%. You could just paint something. You could paint a vehicle, and you could constantly charge up the vehicle, and then if you increase the efficacy of the batteries and electrical storage and the amount that that's actually needed, then obviously you could have a vehicle that you never have to worry about not being able to drive. There is no 400-mile limit. There's no having to go to gas station. That is a good thing. That is a positive progression of man. If we could all just drive our vehicles and never have to worry about fueling them at all, that would be a plus, obviously, right? Now, there would still be advantages to, like, kinda the analog nature of the older vehicles. Say something happens to an electrical grid, or as in, like, an EMP, because, like, you don't actually even need to plug it up if it was done correctly. Okay, anyway, the point is this is a perfect example, that's why I'm using the cars. And actually, if you wanna really get into it, it's like, well, what is solar powered? If you ask someone exactly how does a solar panel work, they kind of don't even know what to tell you, but they'll in really simple layman terms, they'll say that based on the excitement, the vibrational displacement, the vibration of the wavelength of the light is exciting little crystals, and it actually creates electricity that can then be stored. So it has a certain capacitance, blah blah blah. Okay, well, visible light, right? So, like, light from the sun, the visible light from the sun as well, which they use most of the spectrum from the sun. It's only like visible light's less than 1% of the light spectrum. So why can't we use the non-visible spectrum of light that's all around us at all times, and tons of it's coming from the sky at all times with these little panels, and then get power that way? You absolutely could, um, allegedly, in my opinion. So we should already have that. If anyone's looked into Tesla at all, we should already have this, right? Because he referred to it as radiant energy. Um, Basically, we swim in an ether, and there's an endless amount of energy. There's a little ocean you can tap into. And side note, if you're near this channel or whatever, that's why everything that you do is super important, because it's basically it ripples through the ether. It's stamped into the ether. There's an actual real metaphysical aspect to this realm, and your intentions, your thoughts, everything is thrown off into that ocean. It's there forever, and it ripples, right? It ripples because everything displaces. Like, throw a rock in the ocean. Ju- Just side note here. There is moral accountability. This place is much more majestic than you may would think. The visible light spectrum is less than 1% of the total light spectrum. If you really want to get into light, seems to be an ether modality and ether perturbation. Take it or leave it, but everything seems to come from the same primary source, and it's been known about forever. It's called the Akashic records, whatever. So when you lie, when you manipulate, all of this is etched into this metaphysical Akashic record forever. What your intentions are, in terms of betrayal or loyalty, or lying, manipulation, harming other people, like hurting children, all of this, right? Deceiving children, everything that you think that you may can get away with, because a lot of people, I guess, think they can do stuff to children because the children are defenseless, and what can they do? There's there's a million examples, obviously. This is totally just a random input here. But, like, just know, even if someone can't see it, or if you think, "Oh, it's in my own mind, no one will ever know," or if I lie good enough, no one will ever know. It is well known not only by the creators, actually stamped in, "Oh, therefore have to equalize," right? Due to pressure mediation and equilibrium, it will come back, and it'll affect you, okay? Saying all that to say, if you're new here, maybe you needed to hear that. There's a linear code of ethics, there's moral objectivity, there's actually a spiritual metaphysical aspect to this place. Everything that you do is very important. Your intentions are very important. If you're honest, it's very important. If you're spewing hate, if you're sadistic, all of these things are very important, and they can be very detrimental, and they can even affect you physically. They can affect you mentally, as in, like, mental illnesses, ailments, diseases. You can actually start to develop actual diseases. It's been shown that if you're constantly lying and manipulating, then you're in a state of anxiety, effectively, because you have to keep up with the different lies, and that actually causes a certain vibrational deterioration of your quote unquote cells, but it actually has a negative effect on you. Okay, totally side note, not related to the topic. Um, but interesting. It is the reason that we started going over there was talking about energy and stuff. from the cars, and I will say it is related in that sense. The ether is a very real thing, and kind of what I just laid out for you is one of the reasons that they wouldn't want the world to know about the ether. If people knew uh, exactly how important their thoughts and intentions were, thus also their actions, and just how like serious that was, they would then realize how much power they had. Uh, they would then know that the state's not their god, right? They're not their god. Like there's a bigger power, there's a higher power that we're all accountable to, and they would also realize I can basically what I send out, what my intentions are super important, and it's directly in this this ocean that's interconnected with everything else. And then the logical progression is, well, can't we tap into that, right? If our thoughts or intentions, memories, or whatever are going to and from there, then if something can come from there, couldn't we tap into it and utilize it? And then you start to, well, what is light? What's electricity? What's magnetism? What exactly is powering all the stuff that we have in the electrical grid? And you would very quickly start to find out, wait a minute, this should be the last thing that man's ever worried about. There's an abundance of energy, and it would only be utilizing and harnessing it in the proper way. That would be a hiccup. Now, I don't know if they're going to go that route, but everyone does know that, of course, Trump's uncle did get a lot of Tesla stuff. MIT professor on behalf of the US government went in, stole a bunch of Tesla stuff after he died. I don't know if it goes that far. Maybe, because once I start to lay all this out, you may be surprised. Okay. I mean, yeah, I do kind of go on tangents. It is what it is. So we have Elon, that's just one of the things he's doing, right? The automated cars, and then we get into exactly how that all works with lithium batteries, but what's the electrical storage, whatever. He's pushed the idea of powering the entire United States off of solar panels. Again, there are many more are there are many more much more efficient, many more much more efficient ways to get electricity and stuff like that. But who knows if they'll ever actually release those things. What else does he do? He wants to now put a robot in your home. Nothing weird at all about this, right? Let's just go to sleep with some AI robot in my house. Seems legit, you know, because it's just a single one-time purchase of $30,000 and you'll never have to cook your food or make your bed or feed your pet or whatever, mow your grass, clean your house. It'll all be done for you. You want to detail your car? That's what your robot does every Sunday. And so you can see why, again, very simple, easy to understand, convenience, and benefit cover story. Eh, you know, that could help a ton. Self-driving cars, electrical self-driving cars, same thing. That could obviously help a ton, right? I mean, there should reasonably, you would think there'd be way less wrecks, we'd be way more efficient, you'd have way more time. You can now plan to be productive while you're traveling, blah blah blah. You get it. Okay, what else does Elon do? He has Starlink. Okay, that's basically developed a Skynet system above you. So now we're getting into crazy territory. And when you top it off with he has Neuralink, of course, literally wanting to intercept your brain waves, and we'll use the model terminology, right? Uh, new, the way I don't even want to say the words. They don't really understand how the brain works, but in very simple terms, it's all electric, right? And so they're just trying their best to decipher and interpret it, and that really spills over into what I was just saying earlier, which is way deeper than people realize. And we basically have an antenna and material and matter, this material world, like what we place so much importance on is like how do we look and what can we touch? Such a small percentage of everything, and you have like soul and spirit, and this is way deeper than the brain, right? So when you're talking about trying to intercept the brain and its communicative methodologies with your body and telling it how to work and stuff, you are in a crazy world. You're playing with the creator at that point. So he wants to obviously literally put a chip in your brain and effectively control your brain and thus spill over into manipulating minds and thoughts and blah blah blah. Okay, the list goes on and on with Elon, obviously. Um, but if you just step back, he's boring underground, building all these tunnels, whatever. So just Elon by himself has his hands in all kinds of sectors that realistically, it's not just him. He's just there. He's like an Einstein, in my opinion. Like, they just propped him up. really started asking Elon a bunch of hyper specific questions about what he does. I don't know if he could even answer them, but who knows? Anyway, so I thought, if Trump, and the reason I'm breaking all this down is because I want you to understand the thought process, the pattern recognition that brought me to those predictions, so that we can maybe all just kind of piece together what's going on now and what's going to happen. Because whatever pattern recognition was utilized to bring forth those predictions, now that those predictions are coming true and kind of on an eerie level of specificity, obviously we have now learned that that pattern recognition may be very accurate, uh, or useful, right? Pattern recognition is very simple. If Trump is casting the world play as a hero and they're going to utilize him to usher in a new system, then what partner has already got his hands all in it, and it has huge government contracts, more government contracts than anyone in the world? Elon Musk. And so when Elon Musk and Tesla they're doing all of these different things, the government's doing them. Okay, like Elon's not doing all that and the government doesn't know about it, doesn't have the access to the technology or whatever. He gets huge contracts. He basically is just an extension, a public extension of the government. Privatization actually even helps with more corruption in terms of we can't like fully audit a private company as much, although when they're contracted publicly to the government, they are actually adherent to certain stipulations, such as FOIA. So, okay. And trust me, I'm going somewhere with all this. I know it's a lot, but we're covering like the maybe the biggest psyop ever, right? Okay. So we got Elon working with Trump. I'm like, okay, if Trump's actually bringing in this new world order, he's going to have to do that. If you really can remember back to like 2018, 2019, really the only connection between those two ever were that like Trump would make some type of derogatory comment at times or dismissive comments. They weren't like homies or anything. When I said that Trump and Elon were gonna team up and work together to usher in this new world, people thought I was crazy. They were just like, that doesn't even make any sense. What are you talking about? And I will say, I was saying my predictions with lots of confidence, right? And I was completely wrong about about Trump getting back into office in 2020. Completely wrong. But the core of my prediction and outside of that and everything else was completely correct, which was that he's gonna get a second term when he gets into his second term. Well, I'm saying could still be completely correct. Okay, so I predict the Elon thing. We're gonna get into some of the specifics in a second. Um, and then I started going through the list of well, if you wanted to create a technocracy, you wanted to update the system, what all would you update? And we just covered a lot of them. Elon checks a lot of those boxes off the rip, right? Because he's updating tons of different sectors, and there's going to be a common theme in all of this. It's always going to be sold as a good thing. You can't just come on the news one day and say, okay, you're now a slave and you're now going to be locked down against your will in this totalitarian digital slave state. Shut up, sit down, be a good slave. There always has to be a cover story. And, with the pandemic, they had a cover story, obviously, and it still didn't work out that well. People started getting really frustrated. It worked way better than I thought it would. But I mean, I didn't listen to that thing, any of those rules or at all the entire time. And then what happened was eventually people started getting pissed, and that's just not how you can accomplish any long-term compliance. You have to coax people into it with a Trojan horse. You have to make them think that everything is good. And dude, I'll just say I'm not reading the chat right now, right? Guarantee you, there are people claiming I have Trump derangement syndrome and that all this crazy stuff. There are people that are so bought in to Trump that it's basically a religion. It's like a religion, you know. It just on its face, you should not be that infatuated and obsessed with some other dude, just some dude. Like it's called idolatry, right? Like just chill out on his face. It's really weird. Certainly shouldn't be like worshiping in the guy. Okay, but I know some people were just like, "No, I'm just a patriot, whatever." He is going. I have to admit, I think he is absolutely gonna do things that are good for America, and he's absolutely gonna come across as a really good president. He's actually gonna come across like he's keeping his word. These are a lot of the same predictions I made in 2019. So, we'll get more into the specifics of what I think's gonna happen. I guess instead of like bringing you guys all over the place, I'll just tell you what I think here. So if you want to actually, this is almost identically what I said in 2019. I'll show you guys maybe what the streams are. I was putting some of them together. I was going to make a video. I didn't have time to finish putting all the little clips together of my predictions. This is exactly what I would just keep saying, and it's still true, and it still makes tons of sense in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Um, there's one side that's a real threat to the government if you're gonna look at it through the political lens of the right and the left, red and blue, right? And it's obviously conservatives, quote unquote Republicans, just conservatives in general, libertarians, conservatives, because why? They don't want to listen to the government. They're for limited small government at most. They're all about their Second Amendment, and they interpret the Second Amendment to mean that it's not only for personal defense, but it's also in the case of a tyrannical government. And so that is the group you'd have to worry about. If you were ever going to worry about any type of logistical issues in terms of taking the population over or well regulated militias, it's clearly the quote unquote Republican side, the conservative side. The other side, who thinks that taking guns away stops violence or whatever, and they're scared of guns and don't even know how to use them, they're not a threat. The people that just wanna burn cities down, the people that think emotionally and erratically, you know, where honestly, like, strong men are the lowest on the hierarchy, right? That side is not a threat at all. You're gonna have a whole bunch of, like, modern boss babe feminists with blue hair running around starting a rebellion against the government with their, I don't even know, like, baseball bats, maybe, you know? Obviously, that's not even a threat. So, if you're gonna actually make major change, you and you don't want any kickback, you don't want them to actually oppose you, them being the people. You want to go directly for the side that actually has the capability of stopping you. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the government actually ran logistics on if they would be able to take over the American population by force effectively, and they found out all of their systems and the outcome and all of the systems and the programs and operations were overwhelmingly the answer was no. They absolutely could not do that because there's way too many guns. There's home field advantage, basically. You can use guerrilla warfare. It's just, it would be an absolute logistical nightmare. And there's of course the foreign president who said, "I would never invade America because there's a gun behind every blade of grass." And the U.S. government basically echoed this sentiment whenever they looked into and ran the numbers and the possibilities or probabilities of being able to take over the U.S. population by force. So that's not the game, and it never would be the game anyway. If they think they could, it still would be way too complicated. Think about just how big it is and how many rural areas there are. It isn't how you do it. So, what side is the threat? The conservative side, the more quote unquote patriotic, Republican, Second Amendment side, right? That's the threat. That's the side you have to get on your side. The other side doesn't matter. They're just gonna run around and cry and throw a fit. Okay. So, of course, Trump runs as a Republican, but what does he do? He's like, oh, moderate, was liberal the whole time, more of like an independent. So stand more in the middle because you want to just maximize the amount of people that you get. Okay. And so if you're going to usher in a whole new update to a system that really is going to be used to take away freedoms, you need to worry about the side that's all about their freedoms. Uh, the quote unquote left, they basically say, my freedoms, that's their meme. Oh, not my freedoms. They make fun of the right for that. So if you're going to try to take away everyone's freedoms, then you need to make sure that the side who is all about their freedom, at least they believe so, is in agreement with what you're doing, right? You have their compliance. So that's what Trump is doing. Okay. And I hate to break it to you, it's very obvious that's what Trump is doing. And I get that people don't want to believe that. And they're like, oh, well, if Trump's not here to save us, then we're screwed, whatever. Okay. Trump is coming in and he's going to usher in a brand new technocratic digital surveillance state. And it'll take some years to fully develop and build, I think, right? I mean, it's not something you can do overnight, but he is putting the stuff into place. And I think we're going to see revolutionary change. And the only way you could get the American people as a whole to be okay with that is to convince them it was good, to actually make them demand it. Okay. And that's where we are right now. The American people are demanding it. So we're now going to go through. I know that was kind of like a rant. I haven't streamed in a while, so I just got my full rant out of stuff. It's like the good old days. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples of the stuff that's been going on. And it's pretty crazy. And you're going to see this reoccurring theme, which is like, you're never going to disagree with the problem that's being addressed. Like, it's going to sound good on its face every time. There are very serious problems. They've created all of them, right? It's called the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. There are very serious problems. And then you have this last administration. They're just telling you, we're not doing anything, we're making it worse. And so then you have Trump come in where people think Trump's like this amazing, incredible president or whatever. Some people do. And he's like, boys are boys and girls are girls. They're like, oh, let's go. They're like, how is that something to celebrate? That doesn't mean he's a good president. That he said, okay, we're gonna just acknowledge that men are men and women are women. So you can see they lowered the bar really low so that they can act like he's saving the day or whatever. But anyway, so they've created all these different problems and they've exacerbated the problems, right? They've made the problems extreme so that Trump can come in and fix the problems. Well, what do you need to watch out for? What it is that's supposedly fixing those problems. So let's talk about one that everyone knows, the border. If you guys have seen, I had Ryan Matta on somewhat recently, a few months ago. And that's my boy. He did a documentary how hundreds of thousands of children are being trafficked over the border. They're doing it with the help of the government, who's basically hiding behind NGOs, so non-governmental organizations. So they're working with NGOs, and the government is trafficking the children. Like, that's the way it. The fact that they're using NGOs doesn't mean the government's not doing it. The government is literally turning their head, facilitating the children to these NGOs. And they're just losing them. Hundreds of thousands of children. I think the last, like, admitted number was 400 something thousand. So you can go look into treason and go look at my stream with Ryan Matt. If you haven't seen that documentary, I definitely encourage it. It's pretty intense, but it's very good stuff. I was just texting him the other day. I want to collaborate with him on some stuff in the future. So shout out to him. There are tons of people coming into our country. We're being flooded from kind of all angles, really, and they're trafficking children. That's a real thing. That's a real problem that's actually happening. Boots on the ground, verifiably real thing, right? Tons of illegal immigration and tons of trafficking of children. Now, the trafficking of children problem isn't just limited to our southern border over the last 4 years. I hate to break it to you, right? That's a whole thing that I have some announcements about that I'll make in the future. I told some of my Kofi, I told the members in the member only stream, kind of some stuff we're gonna do with that, but we're gonna pull some stuff off in 2025 in terms of that. It's gonna be pretty epic. I'll talk about it in a little bit later. So anyway, that's a real problem. It's a real problem for a long time. You have the whole like, oh, build the wall, don't build the wall, blah 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 blah. Okay, so how do you fix the problem? By the way, a wall can be used to keep people in or keep people out. Just saying. So I'm obviously pro having like a border. It's like y- like, do you think your neighborhood should be gated or should we rip the gate down? Like, should you have a front door? I normally don't talk about even any of this because to even address the core issue, it's so remedial and low vibration. It's crazy where they've gotten us. But obviously, if it's at your, front door, pun not intended, you do have to address it to some extent, right? It's like, do you want to leave your country wide open or not? No, we got plenty of. I think we have a lot of people. I think we need to make more babies. I think that's what we need to do. We need to make more babies of the kind of people that are here. We don't need to bring in every other country and race of people known to man and just flood it all with all kinds of different cultures that have no respect for how we live or what founded our country. Or frankly, sorry if this offends you, the Christian ethos that founded America, and that's the way it was. It was a Christian country. Um, Most people don't even know that the freedom of religion was actually referring to the freedom to choose your own denomination within the umbrella of Christianity. It was that Christian. Now, obviously, it does just say freedom of religion, whatever. Not here to argue that. I'm just letting you guys know the reason America is what it is because of the linear code of ethics that were instilled from its foundation from Christianity. So obviously, you don't want people flooding from all over the place. It will completely destroy the very fabric of what it is to be America. Now, w- that should be obvious, and I think that's been well known and just understood and unspoken for all of human history. Now we're in this world where we're even talking about it's like you go girl because someone's like I'm a woman and that's a man, and letting men pretend to be women is actually an attack on women. That's like this big rev, like oh my gosh, that's so edgy for some people now. So obviously, so is the comments about the border or whatever, or like the different countries and mass immigration. But there's major demographic shift, and that's bad. Like, it's not sustainable unless you want to completely eliminate the culture that is currently there. Very common sense. Okay, so we got an issue with the border. Well known. Now, what was offered as a solution? I bet a lot of people don't even know this. But I'm giving you an example. It is very when you start to look at everything that's going on through these eyes, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so I gotta find it. There it is. All right. What did they offer up to fix the problem with the border?
Number 8, we will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice? In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
He's just straight up telling you digital surveillance, digital tracking system, and there will be no escaping it. It'll be everywhere. It'll be in the air, it'll be in the sea, it'll be on land. And he's people are cheering for this. Yes, please roll out a super sophisticated digital ID tracking system. And they've been saying they were going to do it for years, but they never did it. No, they intentionally haven't done it yet because they're going to utilize AI to do it. And by the way, I'm going to put together a presentation, and maybe the next stream I may actually do that tomorrow night. I'm just introing the idea to people here. A lot of people are like, "Oh, talk about the earth." So I'm going to talk about the earth. I talk about whatever I want to on this channel, bro. That's what I do. I'm going to talk about a bunch of things. Obviously, I gave a bunch of my take on all of this years ago, and I've sat back and waited, and now it needs to be discussed. It needs to be broken down, and we're gonna have to stay up to date with it because it's important. It's important in terms of positioning your family, understanding what you're doing, understanding exactly what's going on in the world. This is a big deal. I'm going to do a presentation that breaks down each of the sectors with all the receipts, all of the evidence, just like we do with other topics. And I'll show you exactly what's going on. But this is kind of more of an intro so you guys know. I don't think people realize exactly how sophisticated and hyper specific this is. This isn't just something random. They've put Trump in right now, and they're ushering in the foundation for a new system. And it is a very advanced surveillance system that's not good, and the part of it that's not good, 'cause I'm not into fear porn. Really not. Not my thing. I don't think you should live in fear. But the part of it that's concerning is how they got everybody cheering it on. The group of people that normally wouldn't cheer on the government doing anything like that, surveilling you, big government, invading your privacy, overstepping its bounds, infringing on your freedom, in terms of security, right? Anyone that would sacrifice freedom for security deserves neither, right? But we're in a paradigm now where you actually have the side that has historically been the most prone to stand up against that, cheering the most egregious infringement known to man or in the history of America on, and that's a very interesting uh, turn of events, right? Which again, you could have saw coming from a mile away if you were keeping up. And one more thing I want to show you guys is something else I predicted, and this is yet to come true yet, but I'm still pretty confident in the prediction. So if you have ever heard of it, there's something called NASARA. Okay. Now I'm not claiming specifically NASARA will happen, but it's the National Economic Security and Recovery Act. And there's also like a GASARA, Global Economic Security and Recovery Act. That one can't happen because it just presupposes the globe, so it's automatically fake. But there's a national one for the United States. And this was proposed by a specific person. It was actually a real piece of legislation that was proposed in Congress. And let's read through some of the stuff that it says really fast. I can't show you super well, but I'll show it here. Okay. So Nassar forgives credit card and we gotta do this. Forgives credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. Abolishes income tax. Abolishes the IRS. It creates a flat rate, non-essential new items only sales tax revenue. Increases benefits to senior citizens. Returns constitutional law. Establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days of Nassar's announcement. Monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities or special interest groups. Does that sound relevant at all right now? Does any of this sound relevant? This was written years and years ago. All right. Creates new U.S. Treasury currency, rainbow currency backed by gold, silver, and platinum precious metals. So actual tangibility of wealth, right? Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters. Initiates the U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. Eliminates the Federal Reserve System. Restores financial privacy. They're going to say it does that with digitalization. Seizes all aggressive U.S. government military actions worldwide, establishes peace throughout the world, initiates the first phase of worldwide prosperity distribution of vast wealth, which has been accumulating for many decades, releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes, enables the release of new technology such as alternative energy devices. Okay. What in the world is that? Now, this is where it gets very interesting. I think that was the 90s. I don't want to say a date. So when okay. So Harvey Francis Bernard, an engineering consultant and teacher with a PhD in systems theory, created the NASARA proposal during the late 80s and early 90s. Okay. So Harvey Francis Bernard. Interesting. What else did this guy do? I don't know if you guys have ever looked into this. I covered this a few years ago, but it's really crazy. So I just read off some of the now. I went on to make the predictions. You're going to update the whole system, then you're going to have to do certain things, right? And Trump's the businessman outside the system. Obviously, we're trillions of dollars in debt. So Trump's going to come in and he's going to come up with all kinds of different ways to be the brilliant businessman that does the impossible and somehow pulls us out of debt. And what do I think he's going to do right now? I think he's going to use Bitcoin. He's going to pull Bitcoin under the like onto our balance sheet and pull it more under the Federal Reserve. I think we may actually do away with the Federal Reserve. And so I used Nassar as kind of an outline, but I made hyper specific predictions, and a lot of them were so outlandish to people. But now it doesn't sound crazy at all. And like I said, I'll do a presentation tomorrow. I'm going to do an actual PowerPoint. I want to finish putting everything together so that it can really, once you see it, you can see it. But whenever I said in 2019, I said, we're going to do away with the Federal Reserve. Trump's going to go against the Federal Reserve. That sounded crazy. And then, of course, now that's not so crazy at all, right? Like he suggested the idea of making the head of the Federal Reserve step down. Now we know, of course, the Federal Reserve isn't federal, okay? And it only does in-house audits. It's just a Ponzi scheme. It's such a joke. And That goes back to you go to 1913, right? Anyway, so I still think there's going to be a major update in terms of currency. So there major change with our debt. Now there may be some type of jubilee system ushered out. I don't really know. The possibilities are endless, but there will be a huge change in terms of our financial situation at the least. And Trump's brought up tariffs, which is actually now you hear all these like people talking about tariffs that don't fully understand them on both sides. People are like, no, tariffs are good. All these countries are going to pay us tons of money. No, like tariffs are charged towards the companies purchasing the goods from outside. So if you're an American, you're going to have to pay a tariff on the goods that you're bringing in from outside the country, and you pay a certain percentage depending on what country it's coming from. So the American companies are paying it, but the reason that it's good is because, well, that encourages and incentivizes people to actually spend their money domestically and the companies to come back here domestically, et cetera, right? So it does equate to tons and tons of money. And what will happen is obviously the people that are selling are going to have to take a cut on the price. They're going to have to do something to accommodate that because they're obviously just no longer going to be able to make their money. So it does end up making America, like the government, a ton of money. And this is how America always made its money. This actually was the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution, right? I mean, from the information that we have, there's always the unspoken asterisk of that. I'm not one of those all of history's fake guys, but history's flooded with lies. They can both be true. So, kind of like the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution was tariffs. This whole idea of federal income tax, you have to go back to like I think 1913, but that's it was an unknown thing. So basically, what they did, they replaced tariffs with income tax and put the burden directly on the people. And the reason they did that is because they started all these different people that are in powerful positions within the government are just making tons of money offshores, right? They're just making money with other countries with different deals, getting cutbacks with different lobbies. Foreign interests are paying all these people while they just gut the American people and put the bill on us, right? If you pay your taxes and think that you have to. Um, they put the bill on the American people, replacing the tariffs with federal income tax. Trump is talking about going back to the tariff route. That's a great decision economically. It's obviously way better for the American people. It puts the American people first. That's just a common sense, basic thing that, like I said, people on neither side really understand. People are saying it's going to be terrible for the economy. That's not true. Some prices of imported foreign goods will go up some, but it will just incentivize tons of companies to come back to the States or to launch in the States, to produce and manufacture in the United States domestically because, well, you're saving tons of money and it encourages people to actually buy American goods and it will begin to level out and it will actually bring tons of money here in addition to incentivizing people to purchase here. So, anyway, that's a great thing. My point is that like Trump is going to fix a lot of the economic issues, and I think it's going to be way more extreme than the first one. So there's obviously the group that's like, all this is fake. Trump's just telling you what you want to hear, and nothing's ever going to happen, just like nothing ever happens. Very reasonable position based on basically the history of all politics, right? And all presidents ever. That's what they do. They just tell you what you want to hear. They don't do anything. Then there's the take that like Trump is going to literally save the world and he's the best ever, and they praise him. I think that's more dangerous than the apathetic perspective, honestly, because no, he's actually ushering in a system, and if the people don't catch it and aren't aware and can't call out some of the detrimental aspects of the upgrades, then I really don't know. There's a lot of going back from some of this stuff. So, and then obviously there's this middle ground here where we see that some things are being done, or what I'm saying is like he's actually going to do major change, but doesn't mean he is a hero at the same time. Right. There's all these false dichotomies with every aspect of this, is my point here. Okay. And like I think he isn't just gonna not keep any of his promises. I think he's gonna do a bunch of crazy stuff. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I think Trump's gonna do major things, major things. And it is a very sophisticated gotcha. Okay, so we have Harvard Bernard. He wrote
NASAR, National Economic Security and Recovery Act. We just read through some of the stuff that was proposed in it. Most of it sounds pretty good, right? It's like, okay, tell them to stop taxing the American people, put some precious metals behind our money. It shouldn't just be a big, gigantic Ponzi scheme. Abolish the IRS. Just, get rid of the Federal Reserve. This stuff sounds good. Okay. He also wrote a book, and look what the title of the book is. Wow. Wow. So it's literally called Draining the Swamp. Okay, which is of course the phrase that Trump just repeatedly said it all the time. Like, we're gonna drain the swamp, we're gonna drain the swamp, we're gonna drain the swamp. So again, the guy who wrote Nasara is the same guy who wrote Drain the Swamp, which is exactly what Trump used to always say. Now, that's important. You can fall down that rabbit hole in your own if you want to look it up. Just Google Nasara National Economic and Security Recovery Act. Now, what I want to do is for maybe the rest of the stream, Trump put out a list of videos and promises in like 2022. If you haven't seen them, it's going to kind of blow your mind. If you have seen them, they're still crazy, but just so you know, we're going to watch a decent amount of them. And there's only like 10 of them. We may not watch all of them, but it's very important if you haven't seen them. But understand what I'm saying right now. So how could you update the entire, and like I said, I'm going to do like a whole presentation on it tomorrow. But like, how do you update the whole system? We're talking about if you want to like update the surveillance system, the banking system, the transportation system, the education system. We're talking about literally revamping everything. It's so funny because this all I did in 2019 to predict this stuff was just think about everything. I'm like, what is all the stuff that's wrong? What all the stuff that's big government's incompetence has just totally eroded and is completely detrimental and ineffective. The education system, we spend more money on the education system than anywhere else in the world. It's like we're like the worst, right? Like our children can't even read and write, and whatever they do end up reading and writing, it's just pure propaganda. And it's at the heart of it just teaches them how to be slaves, and it tells them all sit in the same room and learn at the same pace. So you got like Nikola Tesla learning at the same pace of someone that can't tie their shoes. That doesn't make any sense. And it's like no child left behind. So we're all going to go super slow. And don't worry, we're going super slow to something that isn't true anyway. And it's just propaganda. We're not going to teach you any true life skills or information that would actually be beneficial to you. Just a joke, right? So big government, and this goes back to brainwash the women, push feminism, like have them, like demonize masculinity, demonize femininity, flip it on its head, emasculate the men, just completely attack testosterone with tons of parabens and tons of hormone disruptors and endocrine disruptors. So I think testosterone has dropped like in half or something crazy over the last couple decades. And then of course, they've also attacked the women's hormones, like the hormonal displacements and dysregulations of our generation and the younger generations, like millennial down, is pretty crazy. If you look into that, it's totally wild. And then, of course, you get into the whole like the inoculations and what all's in there and the different, quote unquote, genetic material that's within there from animals and boys and girls. And it's also crazy, and replicated stem cells, and it's just a whole thing. And then, of course, they come in on the end and they're actually sexualizing children, and they're actually confusing them sexually, just unspeakable evil. And in order to pull all this off, they had to attack the actual fabric of the society in terms of the family. So now tell the woman like, "Oh, you need to be a boss babe, go out into the world, you can do whatever men can do." They become real masculine. They get like into this state of mind where they're very masculine. Um like that's their primary focus. It's like a second life they have, right? It's like they have a second life, and they have this work life over here, and then it ends up putting their family, even if mentally, on the back burner. And then when they come out, they're wore out, and they're giving their best to this corporation and to other people, but not their family, right? And so where does the child go in that situation? The child goes to the state. And so it was a very sophisticated plan, meticulously mapped out, right? You flip the actual, quote unquote gender's a construct or whatever, but you flip the quote unquote gender roles, the natural hierarchy, the natural order. You just hit people with propaganda. If you think about it, this is so crazy. It's like a whole nother stream. If you think about the propaganda involved in this, it's insane. Look at every single Disney movie and princess movie. What happens? The princess is like going, like disobeying the father, going against the father's wishes, going, uh, sneaking behind the guy's back that she's supposed to be with and going getting with like some like rebel guy. Like even in Aladdin, right? He's just going around stealing stuff, sneak off with them, like some loser. Um, and then like all the propaganda, right? It's like every love story. Oh, girl has a fiance, but then goes back home for Christmas and sees um whatever, sees like the guy of the hometown or someone that she didn't know was in the hometown, but she meets someone and it's like the love story is it's like just run around with no commitment to a family and have women be boss babes and run out there and then have men be like happy wife, happy life, and be real feminine. And so they flip that all up with you're just getting hit with all this propaganda all the time. And then you have the actual physical attack with all the chemicals and all that stuff going on, right? So it's very interesting to see kind of what that's turned into. What that's turned into is just complete chaos, like no order whatsoever. And so then the children are getting, they're basically just being left alone. So both people are outside the house, both parents are working, children goes to the state, they pump tons of money into the system, and people think that they're getting all the people's compliance to put more and more money into the education system because they're like, "This is super important," and it was the norm that almost every family was putting their child in public school, right? Unless you could afford private school, which is basically the same in many ways. So then they were able to keep getting more and more and more funding because it makes people feel better to think like, "Oh, well, uh, you know, we're putting our money in towards making sure they take care of our kids. It's okay because basically the state ends up raising your children, right? And so the point I'm making with all of that is if they put that much money into it and then still children are stupider than ever, and like more illiterate than ever, that means it was done on purpose. Okay. It was done on purpose. You don't get way more funding and resources than ever before, and then all of the children become stupider than ever, right? They're more rebellious than ever. They're more degenerate than ever. Degeneracy and depravity and promiscuity, promiscuity. They're more promiscuous than ever. Like children, right? Like just like 10, 11, 12, 13 year olds, like children, like 7, 8 addicted to porn. Like the world is so crazy. What they're doing to the children in the school is wild. It's just all evil and bad. And the last thing to do is teach them actual value, how to think instead of what to think and all this stuff. Okay. So anyway, that's obviously a major problem with anyone with brain cells knows that. And whenever the whole pandemic thing happened, the demand for homeschool shot through the roof. It kind of started to level off a little bit, but then it picked back up and it's still way higher than it was. There was a major awakening of people in America, of parents in America, that the schooling system has just got to go, that it's just not working. So now Trump's going to come in and fix that. I guarantee you. And I say this in like 2019. I bring up the education system. What does Trump do? Boom! He immediately gets rid of like the federal education department, or whatever. Right? Just gets rid of it altogether. Just gets rid of it. Okay, so that was quite a bit of a rant, but the point is that they've created a dysfunctional society in almost every conceivable metric and every conceivable sector and every conceivable angle, right? They've attacked the fabric of the way that this country was built in terms of, frankly, sorry if it triggers you, Christian ethics. And so now the people are starting to realize these problems are so bad they can no longer be ignored. And they've actually taken them to like the next level. And when they started, instead of, you boil the frog over time, they just turned it all the way up here recently, which means they want you to know that it's hot. Okay. They want you to know. Because if you think about like the progression of, say, how everything flipped on its head in terms of like men and women and women being in the house and raising the children, right? That was a whole process. It was gradual and it took turns. They chipped away, chipped away, chipped away, chipped away. And then we step back and look now, it's all flipped on its head. You know, um, that's how you actually do it because people turned around before they even knew it. The entire fabric of society had changed And people don't even realize the significance of that point right there. It's probably the biggest one. And so all of a sudden they've turned it all the way up to just pure lunacy, right? Where they're like, you can identify as a spaceship and you're a dog now. Like, what's your favorite color? Oh, that's your pronoun. Like just goofy stuff, right? Like to the point where it comes off like they're probably frustrated that some people there's actual human beings that breathe that aren't like this is ridiculous. It's like that stupid at this point. And the only reason that they would make it that crazy, they would turn it up, turn up the proverbial heat that much, is because they want you to know it. And if they want you to know it, it's because they want to guide your reaction. They want to guide your reaction. It means that they have a solution they want to guide your reaction to. And that, illusory solution is the actual deception, the actual attack, the actual method of control that they want to implement. We're on one tonight. I guess when I take big breaks from streaming and I come back, I just like want to rant about everything. All right. So I'm going to pick some of these different videos. There's obviously a lot of them and we're going to watch them. But okay, we'll play this one first. This is kind of relevant to what I was saying. It's not specific to the lower levels of education. I haven't even watched all these. I've watched most of them. If you haven't seen them, you should check them out. I'll drop the link in the chat. Yeah, if you want to support the stream, kofi.com/witsit. All right, so let's go ahead and play one of these. Only people are really aware of what you're in store for with this guy.
In recent weeks, Americans have been horrified to see students and faculty at Harvard and other once respected universities
Give me a feedback. Make sure it's loud enough. That's as loud as it goes, though.
expressing support for the savages and jihadists who attacked Israel. We spend more money on higher education than any other country, and yet they're turning our students into communists and terrorists and sympathizers of many, many different dimensions. We can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically different. Under the plan I'm announcing today, we will take the billions and billions of dollars that we will collect by taxing, fining, and suing excessively large private university endowments, and we will then use that money to endow a new institution called the American Academy. Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge, and do it with.
This is cool. They're not even that long. I sped it up. They're not even that long. All right. I'm gonna go back and play it. Just let me know if my voice is like way louder in the video or something.
Will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge, and do it without adding a single dime to the federal debt. This institution will gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills, and make that material available to every American citizen online for free. Whether you want lectures or ancient histories or an introduction to financial accounting or training in a skilled trade, the goal will be to deliver it and get it done properly. Using study groups, mentors, industry partnerships, and the latest breakthrough in computing, this will be a truly top-tier education option for the people. It will be strictly non-political, and there will be no wokeness or jihadism allowed. None of that's going to be allowed. Most importantly, the American Academy will compete directly with the existing and very costly four-year university system by granting students degree credentials that the U.S. government and all federal contractors will henceforth recognize. The Academy will award the full and complete equivalent of a bachelor's degree. In addition, to help the 40 million Americans who have some college education but no degree, the American Academy will grant credit for past coursework at legacy institutions and give you the chance to complete your education at the American Academy for free and much more quickly than is now possible or available. This will be a revolution in higher education and will provide life-changing opportunities for tens of millions of our citizens.
Maybe I should speed it up.
Enjoy it, learn from it, and thank you.
Okay.
Actually, pretty good idea, right? Uh, so I'm not going to rant about all the problems that we had right now because I just kind of touched in the education system right there and very briefly, right? It's actually something I'm very passionate about. And I actually it took a while to thoroughly explain the very paradigm and dynamic that they had to implement to even be able to build the education system up to be as powerful of a tool of propaganda as it is. And in order to do that, they had to get all the children there. And the way that they did that was by actually attacking the fundamental nature of men and women, and thus the nuclear family, the marriages, and the children that come from that, and the way that they're raised, and the normalization of handing your children off. Then it's something I'm very passionate about in terms of, like, helping children, giving them access, helping parents with homeschooling, stuff like that. I'm really hoping to make major positive change in terms of that. And I think that the biggest thing is that they teach children what to think, but they don't teach them how to think. I think if you teach your children, and this is like the number one thing one of the first things I want to teach Aaliyah, is how to think, not what to think. Right, and I'm talking like literal logical fallacies. You can give them simple examples of, when we add fire to the water, it boils, and that's called heat. Heat makes the water boil. If someone came and told me, "Hey, heat makes water boil," and I said, No, it doesn't. I don't. What do you have any proof of that? Prove it. What are you talking about?" If that person says to me, "Everyone knows that heat makes water boil," that doesn't actually prove it. That isn't legitimate argument, right? Um, I could just you can convey that concept to them in very simple terms is my point, right? Like, it doesn't matter what everyone believes. That doesn't actually mean that what they're saying is true. But what they're saying is true. And the only reason that you would actually use that example where what they're claiming is actually true is to then explain a fallacy, which is probably a little bit complicated for someone right at the but it's like, well, just because their argument they made, which was everyone knows that heat causes water boil, even though that is fallacious, that's no good, right? That's not valid. It doesn't mean that their claim is wrong. It doesn't mean that what they're actually saying, their conclusion is wrong. You can convey this in very simple terms to children and work through it with them, give them some examples, and then give them the opportunity to spot various examples and label or identify them. And once they learn at a young age how to think, how to spot logical coherency and reason and consistency, they are so much better equipped to then progress and navigate life and figure out what the truth is in different scenarios than 50,000 years of just telling them what to memorize and what to think. Okay. That is something that I'm like very passionate about. I think that it's that simple of a fix. That and not putting them all to learn at the same pace. Like, children have different aptitudes and children have different passions. And if someone's really, really good, they naturally have a knack at understanding physics. You should help that to flourish. And if they enjoy it, find different parts of it that excite them, right? And then help to actually nurture, water and nurture, and allow that to flourish, that aptitude, as opposed to all children sit in a box, learn at the same rate, and then it's just a jail, basically. Stand up in line, walk in a single file line. Here's the bell. Sit down. Don't move. It's just a joke. Okay, and it's like people don't realize the impact of those two things of what they've taught men and women. They've propagandized men and women to be and how to act and how they've messed with the family, and then thus causing them to throw the children. And they've deterred people from making children largely altogether, but then throw the children into this like meat grinder of a system. Just those two things alone has completely decimated, decimated our country, decimated it. And it's not like just America, but you know, we have an obligation to look out for the future generations, and everyone wants to sit around till it's super, super bad. Well, we're starting to see it be really bad. Okay. And it's always 20 years behind or so. 20 years behind. So we're just now seeing these children that are growing up, with this propaganda and these iPads and all these nonsense narratives. Well, if you go back 15 years, if you're talking about a 15-year-old, go back 10 years and 5 years, they weren't near as bad as they are right now, and the 15-year-olds are really bad right now. So you get it. The point is that it's always delayed, and the future generations are just a reflection, like the younger generations are a reflection on the future of your society. Okay. Surely those are concepts that don't even need to be fully explained, but it's very important. We have an obligation. You got to grow up in a world that wasn't near as crazy as right now. Imagine what it's going to be like. I feel like people just get so apathetic and nihilistic about that. It's kind of interesting. All right. Oh, here's another one. Let's see. This is good. Okay, that was more about the college system. Obviously, that's good. That's a whole thing, right? He covered a decent amount of it, but he's saying that you would get like an actual degree that's accredited and it's like respected as a real degree, and it's online, it's free, it's got all the information there. You can go access it. It's so funny. It's similar to what I am putting together, but it's like truth or oriented, meaning like the real deal, not just like the official cookie cutter, uh, system approved history, for example. It's like a truther university, but it's just funny that that's like a very similar idea. Okay, here's something else he says about the education. Everyone, this is the part that's important. You remember when I pointed out that the quote unquote conservative, the Republican, the right, or whatever, that's the side that's actually more of a threat in terms of pushing back. Now they've got them, right? That's who supported him. That's who the sales pitch was for this entire time. But a lot of these things everyone's going to agree on. See, now that he's in office and he's starting to roll into his like hero role, he has to transition it into getting everyone. I tried to explain this back in the day too. And like when I was making those videos back in like 2019, my prediction was the way that you get everyone is stuff like exposing pedophilia. And I think that's still the case. That's another huge one, right? If they really were to expose a lot of the trafficking, a lot of the corruption and that super dark underside to a lot of these people that are in the government, who's going to disagree with that? And if someone in some twisted way did, they would be scared to say it. And obviously, people my take on the punishment for something such as that is pretty intense, okay? But either way, everyone would be like, okay, even if you claim to not like Trump right now, you'd be like, you'd have to applaud Trump if he did something, huge and massive in terms of stopping human trafficking and sexualization of children and abuse of children and stuff like that. So that's what we're about to see, in my opinion. What we're about to see is something that no one can deny, that no one on any quote unquote side can say that they don't like, and because they have to get the compliance of everyone now with the system, and they're clearly priming people for that. Like, with Trump himself, he's like, always a liberal, like his whole life, lifelong liberal. Then he's still more of like a moderate. He pushes basically the quote unquote conservative right wing movement. They're just the new like classical liberal from back in the day, much more independent, much more moderate, much more middle ground or whatever. Now I'm speaking within the lens of politics, which everyone knows that I don't believe that politics are legit or that your vote up at the higher levels even matter. But I do believe that the actual philosophical and moral discussions and debates within what people call politics in terms of our society and your input in decisions in the society are extremely important. One of the most important things ever. And they tell you not to talk about like God, money, or politics, like the most important things. Uh, no, it's just you shouldn't fall for the trick, which is that these people that are claiming to represent some side are really going to do something because they said it, and you don't need to become super tribalistic and pick or choose one side or the other, start attacking the other person, and just consuming and regurgitating the talking points and the solutions that they propose to you. The tribalism basically ends up equating to like just low IQ. It renders you low IQ. It renders your decision making very ignorant, short sighted, and typically evolve into emotionally erratic, contradictory nonsense. All right. Here's another one in terms of education that I just don't think people are going to be able to really say anything about.
As president, it was my honor to support America's homeschool families and to protect the God-given right of every parent to be the steward of their children's education. Since the China virus, America has seen an estimated 30% increase in homeschool enrollment. When I'm reelected, I will do everything I can to support parents who make the courageous choice of homeschool. Under the Trump tax cuts, we allowed families to use 529 education savings accounts to spend up to $10,000 a year tax-free on tuition for grades K through 12. This was a tremendous win for school choice, very important, school choice, remember that term. And yet that benefit did not apply to homeschoolers. So to support the growing homeschool movement, in my next term, I will immediately fight to allow homeschool parents the same incredible benefit, $10,000 a year per child, completely tax-free to spend on costs associated with homeschool education. I will also work to ensure that every homeschool family is entitled to full access to the benefits available to non-homeschool students, including participating in athletic programs, clubs, after-school activities, educational trips, and more. To every homeschool family, I will be your champion. Do not vote Democrat. They are looking to destroy you. If you don't mind my saying that, Joe Biden can't put two sentences together, and yet he's looking to destroy you. Do not vote Democrat. Do not vote for Crooked Joe.
Okay. And this is something else that I'm also very passionate about, and I have some things in the works that seem very promising for that and possibly very epic. Very, very epic. But that's super cool. We have to acknowledge. Now, it's saying that you're getting a tax cut, and I'll do a stream. I'll do a stream in the near future on that whole rabbit hole, and that may I think that should be able to stay on YouTube. Total rabbit hole, but not the point. The point is that most people, and there are huge benefits in terms of business advantages within the tax system, and super wealthy people know and utilize that, obviously. But regardless, it like on its face, if you're paying taxes, the idea that you're going to get like a huge tax cut or benefit to go towards homeschooling, like the encouragement to homeschool or aiding the homeschool is a good thing. Like, who can really I can see some people saying it's bad somehow, but most of these things you can't. Now, this is not that big of a thing, but the American university is a huge change, right? That's a huge change, okay? And I'm talking we're gonna get way bigger changes. I don't think people really understand and realize what's gonna happen. Obviously, you have a huge announcement that we're gonna cover in a second, a huge announcement, um, of what they're putting, say, $500 billion towards. It's I didn't want my prediction to be true. It's becoming so eerily correct at this point, it's hard to deny. So we have to talk about it. We have to keep up with it. Okay. Okay, let's talk. Here's something else that people really can't. Now, um, okay, obviously with the American education system and like, oh, the American university, well, they're going to propagandize you and you're still getting your information directly from the government. That's a government funded online university. So it sounds good. It's like, okay, the universities are screwing people over and they're raising the money crazy and it's publicly funded and the quality's terrible and they're basically indoctrination camps and they just teach people to go there and party, and then women go women normally go to college and just go through a hoe phase, and then everyone's just partying. That's really all that it is, and then you just struggle your way through getting a piece of paper that you can now get for almost anything, like lesbian dance theory or whatever you can come up with. And it's basically useless, and then you start your child off in an immense amount of debt. You're just teaching people to go and be irresponsible for like the first 4 years of quote unquote adulthood, and then just be in tons and tons of debt for it. And the quality of the education has completely plummeted. So obviously saying, no, we're not going to do that. It can be free. You get access to all kinds of information. You'll still be respected as a real degree. That's obviously an that's an improvement But what are they actually getting out of it? Now they're saying, look, we're going to indoctrinate everyone. You don't even have to go to a specific university. You don't have to go live there or be there in person. You don't have to take out these huge loans. We're going to indoctrinate all of the people as soon as they step off into adulthood. And what's really going to be in there? What are the narratives and propaganda that's going to be pumped in there? You think that they're going to make some major revisions and they're going to be like, yeah, the JFK assassination wasn't quite what you thought. Here's the truth about Gulf of Tonkin. Of course not, which is, again, why I'm trying to make a truther university. Anyone that's interested in being a part of that, you can email me, witsit@protonmail.com, put it in the subject. All right. So here's something that's a good example of, okay, who's going to disagree with this on the surface, right? And maybe you should you think about it a little bit deeper.
I was thrilled to host a screening at Bedminster of the important new film, Sound of Freedom, about the power of faith in overcoming evil, and in particular, the evil of child trafficking. Big problem. We had it down to the lowest number in many years just 4 years ago, and now it's gone through the roof. Even though the fake news media has tried to ignore.
Someone said, so wait, the Earth's a globe now? What? Who said that? What? No, the Earth's not a tilted, wobbling, spinning globe, free falling through a vacuum of nothingness in the ever expanding universe of nothingness where nothing matters. It's all random, chaotic happenstance. And there's some magical matter and some magical energy, trust me, bro. And then we're omnidirectional and antipodal no matter where you are. And there's no down. It's all relative to the center of mass of a ball that can't actually sustain a magnetic field, but it's just there. Trust me, bro. No, none of that's real. Space and time been in warp magically just to deceive everyone that's on the Earth into believing that the Earth is stationary when actually the time actually is different. And the distance has actually changed. There's just a magical wand of nihilism and moral relativism that slides in the form of a grappler waving his little wand saying, hey, time has changed and space has changed. And even though the evidence shows that the Earth is absolutely stationary, you can't do any physics without actually acknowledging the stationary lab frame, we're going to pretend that there is no absolute and everything is relative. And actually, the Earth is free falling in a vacuum and changing direction perpetually without any forces acting on it. It's going straight, but it's going curved, but it's doing both at the same time. And just trust me, bro. It's a tilted, wobbling, spinning ball, and it's wobbling 4 different ways somehow, but I don't really know how, but I promise that it is. And no one said any of that. Totally, I just thought that was kind of funny. All right, here we go.
Ignore it. Sound of Freedom has been a national sensation and a colossal success at the box office, really big numbers. Everyone should see it. This is a very important film and very important movie, and it's a very important documentary all wrapped up in one. It's really about an issue that has to be discussed. Under my leadership, we did more than any administration in history to combat human trafficking and to end modern-day slavery. In one of my first acts.
Oh, what's this guy? This guy's saying, why lie about the Midnight Sun? I didn't lie about anything. Wait, this guy's just being ridiculous the whole way. How did you have mod? Okay, well, you just accused me of lying. So we're gonna.
Acts in office, I signed an executive order targeting transnational criminal organizations that traffic and exploit innocent people. I signed the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, authorizing $430 million to fight sex and labor trafficking. I signed legislation to crack down on foreign countries who are not meeting standards for eliminating trafficking, of which there are many. I also signed into law the Abolish Human Trafficking Act, which strengthened programs supporting survivors and provided more resources for ending modern slavery. We do have modern slavery, if you can believe it. Additionally, I created the first ever White House position focused solely on combating human trafficking. And perhaps most importantly, we created the most secure border in U.S. history by far, dealing a major blow to the cartels and traffickers. We built.
Pretty sure the border didn't have really any problem at all, like 6-7 decades ago. My guy.
Hundreds of miles of wall. We renovated hundreds of miles of wall. We never had anything like it. And then I got Mexico free of charge to give us 28,000 soldiers to protect us from people coming into our country illegally. When I am back in the White House, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. We will fully secure the border. I will wage war on the cartels just as I destroyed the ISIS caliphate, 100% gone, 100% destroyed. They'll come back now because we have a weak administration. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure.
Okay. He said he wants to bring the death penalty back for human traffickers. I mean, that sounds kind of broad and vague, right? But, I'm not opposed to I'm personally not opposed to the death penalty if it's definitively proven that someone, like in terms of like pedophilia and stuff like that, super open to it, not gonna lie. But throwing around death penalty with kind of vague terms and like, the danger in it is, what if they just make it up? What if they just plant evidence on you because you're a dissident? What if you didn't actually do something? Now we just normalize killing people. Trump has also said something about the death penalty for anti-Semitic hate crimes. Okay, and so what is Trump normalizing this idea of the death penalty in multiple different contexts, which again, you present it like, dude, human traffickers are so bad, which they are. That's like the utmost evil ever. We shouldn't even really go into detail out loud, speaking out loud about them. I think it's that egregious. Like, nevertheless, it's how it works every time. It's like the education system actually is a huge problem. The border actually is a huge problem, right? Human trafficking actually is a huge problem. So they say, okay, we're going to cut down on all the illegal immigration and therefore all the crime and trafficking that stems off of the border. That's good. Let's do that. We're going to roll out a digital tracking ID system that surveils everyone and you can't escape it. It's inescapable. We're going to use AI to do it and you can't escape in the air or in the sea or on the land. That isn't good. We didn't ask for that. How do we go from, okay, let's protect our border, to, okay, now you're not going to be able to breathe without this super sophisticated AI surveillance system tracking you digitally? It's clearly what is happening there. Clearly, this is very sophisticated operation to usher in a new technocratic digital system, a surveillance system all around. It's so obvious to me. But, we will see. Okay, here's another thing, and we'll just watch a couple more of these, and then I'll play another video. The big thing where it's like 3-4 days in, just immediately just pulled the veil back. In case you were wondering, in case you were actually holding your breath, that Trump, it was really going to get in and was going to be a good guy. Now, he really just didn't make you wait. He came right out and showed you. People still making excuses for him with Operation Warp Speed and stuff. All right. Let's check this one out.
Under crooked Joe Biden, there has been a catastrophic increase in shortages of essential medicines. Last year, new drug shortages were up by 30%, with 295 active drug shortages just by the end of 2022 alone. It's a mess. There's currently a shortage of at least 14 critical cancer drugs in the United States. They just can't get it. And every month of delay, cancer treatment increases the risk of death by at least 10%. It's unthinkable that this could be happening in the United States of America in 2023. It is truly unbelievable. We are becoming a third Crooked Joe Biden, our disgraced president, has wasted trillions. Crooked Joe Biden, our disgraced president, has wasted trillions of taxpayer dollars in less than 3 years, causing uncontrolled inflation that is crushing working families. Reining in Biden's wasteful and unnecessary spending is vital to stopping inflation and...
Oh, I was muted. How dare me. Sorry, thank you guys. We can hear the video. Yeah, I accidentally muted. Sorry. I try to mute when I drink my drink. I've got some complaints. I think we're back now. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Anyway, sorry. What I was saying is this is the one I think is pretty crazy. This is the one that you want to hear. So check it out. Just really pay attention to the terminology and the words used here, right? Like just pay attention to exactly what the tone and the specific phrases. Very interesting. And think about it in the context of what I'm explaining to you. Again, if you've come in late or something, the synopsis is pretty simple. Trump was cast into the world play as a hero so he could usher in this supposed illusory golden age, but it's actually a Trojan horse for a technocratic slave state. There will be an updates to every major sector in terms of digital surveillance and digitalization. This will be the foundation, the renovation of the current system to the new system that will be able to effectively integrate into a new world order. Okay, let's check this out. Just pay attention to it. It's pretty crazy. If this is the one I think it is.
And rescuing our economy from ruin. But the pain of the spending cuts must be borne by the special interests and Washington bureaucrats, not by American families and American seniors in particular. For 200 years under our system of government, it was undisputed that the president had the constitutional power to stop unnecessary spending through what is known as impoundment. Very simply, this meant that if Congress provided more funding than was needed to run the government, the president could refuse to waste the extra funds and instead return the money to the general treasury and maybe even lower your taxes, although we did give you the biggest tax reduction in history and the biggest regulation reduction in history, two things I'm very proud of. And they still are there, although they're disappearing rapidly under Biden. Thomas Jefferson famously...
You said someone said they have to keep turning their speakers up and down. I tried to ask if my voice was much different than his. People said it wasn't really that different. But hey, man, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. I'm whispering right now just for you because you typed in all caps. I'll try not to talk during the videos. Just know that when this video is over, I'm going to start talking on the mic again. And it's going to be louder than the video was soon. I'm sorry the video's turned up all the way.
Used this power, as did many other presidents, until it was wrongfully curtailed by the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Not a very good act. This disaster of a law is clearly unconstitutional, a blatant violation of the separation of powers. When I return to the White House, I will do everything I can to challenge the Impoundment Control Act in court and, if necessary, get Congress to overturn it. We will overturn it. I will then use the president's long-recognized impoundment power to squeeze the bloated federal bureaucracy for massive savings. This will be in the form of tax reductions for you. This will help quickly to stop inflation and slash the deficit. To prepare for this eventuality, on day one, I will order every federal agency to begin identifying large chunks of their budgets that can be saved through efficiencies and waste reduction using impoundment. Of course, this will not include national defense, and unlike Ron DeSanctimonious, who doesn't really know what's happening, I will not lay a finger on Medicare or Social Security. He wants to destroy Social Security and basically obliterate Medicare. These are benefits for our seniors. We are not going to touch it. There are many other things we can do. We're not going to let Ron DeSantis do anything to hurt Medicare or Social Security. On the contrary, some of the funds we save through impoundment from other parts of the government can be used to strengthen Medicare and Social Security for years to come. Reasserting the president's historic impoundment authority will also restore critical negotiating leverage with Congress to keep spending under control. Very simple. We're going to keep spending under control. We had it done, and then COVID came in, and we had to do some things to help save our country. We did it.
Okay, I just realized that there's 3 pages. Oh, hey, I'm back. I'm sorry. I have everything turned up the most I can. Their websites, the official website, it's just quieter. I'm sorry. Okay, I just realized that there's multiple pages though. All right. This one's really good. We're gonna watch this one. Okay, guys, think about this is some gravy, bro. Think about this has got me whispering now. Think about if you haven't looked into it, think about what was really here. Textbooks and encyclopedias pre-1910 pretty much unanimously said there was an advanced ancient civilization in the United States prior to the Native Americans. Think about, Golden Age. It's so funny. I've been saying Golden Age for years, going all the way back to 2019, because it conveys the concept very well. A new Golden Age, a new age of reason, Golden Age. And then Trump starts constantly saying Golden Age in his actual acceptance speech after he wins on election night. He says, "Welcome to the Golden Age of America," and he keeps on saying Golden Age. Now think about this idea of ushering in a Golden Age, right? And basically bringing us back to this higher level, advanced place where many truthers will tell you that upon further investigation, it looks like we may have really been drastically misled about our history, right? And that there was a lot of advanced architecture. There were advanced ancient civilizations, even in the United States, right? And that a lot of the cover stories for how even some of these buildings in the United States were built don't really make any sense. And it's interesting, right? So look what he brings up. If this is the one, I think this is it. This is the 250th year anniversary of the United States of America. And really think about everything I just said and think about the significance of that, because they called it the New World. And that's what I think is because it was one of the capitals of the Old World. And that's why they chose it, because just this land itself is beautiful. You have all kinds of different types of land, all kinds of different types of soil and crops and animals, right? This place is just all around an incredible place in terms of geography, right? Geographically. So, okay, anyway. This is pretty crazy. I don't think people realize. I'm pretty sure that I'm right about this. Who knows? We got to keep an eye on it. That's for sure. Okay, video coming. It will be a little bit lower in 3, 2.
3 years from now, the United States will celebrate the biggest and most important milestone in our country's history. 250 years of American independence. What a great country. And we have to keep it that way. But that's why, as a nation, we should be preparing for a most spectacular birthday party. We want to make it the best of all time. Here is my plan to give America's founding in 1776 the incredible anniversary it truly deserves. On day 1, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026. Second, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states. It'll be something. The Great American State Fair will showcase the glory of every state in the Union, promote pride in our history, and put forth innovative visions for America's future. My hope is that the amazing people of Iowa will work with my administration to open up the legendary Iowa State Fairgrounds to host the Great American State Fair and welcome millions and millions of visitors from around the world to the heartland of America for this special one-time festival. Together we will build it and they will come. Third, alongside the Great American State Fair, we will host major sporting contests for high school athletes. These are great athletes, wonderful athletes from fantastic high schools all around the country. These Patriot Games will allow young Americans from every state to show off the best of American skill, sportsmanship, and competitive spirit. Fourth, I will sign an executive order to bring back our National Garden of American Heroes, which we want to build very badly. Commission artists for the first 100 statues to populate this new statuary park honoring the greatest Americans of all time. Fifth, as president, I will invite the leaders and citizens of nations around the world to visit the United States in honor of our 250th anniversary. It's going to be great. America's tourist industry should get ready because we're going to have a lot of people coming. It will be a record year. And finally, and most importantly, I will ask America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and our people as we prepare for this momentous occasion. From the very beginning, America has been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer and by our communities of faith. As we chart a course toward the next 250 years, let us come together and rededicate ourselves as one nation under God. Thank you.
By the way, someone was saying they exposed me because I don't say God, I say creator or Yah. And you notice how everyone will say God. Well, God, more of a title, but also Gadrael, G-A-D, God. God is the Babylonian deity for fortune and luck. Gadrael is the name of one of the watchers, but G-A-D, Babylonian deity for fortune and luck, it's pronounced the same, God, and that's why it's on the back of your dollar, fortune, right? Babylonian deity. So just so you know, there's probably seemingly a very powerful group of people that have a very different belief system than most of you, right? And they're evil. They think they have a good grasp on the duality of things. This occultic, Gnostic, esoteric belief system, right? There's the duality of life. You have to overcome the duality of everything, blah, blah, blah. They say that we're God. Okay. I'm going to try to open it up in a new window because it's not letting me get big here. But there's two more. We're going to watch two more. This next one is the one I think I didn't realize there were more pages. I think this next one is the one that's crazy. Okay, here we go. I pay attention to the terminology used in this, like the tone, and exactly what's being conveyed here. And think about it in the context of everything that we've been discussing and kind of the operation that is Q and stuff like that.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national.
Bro, that's crazy, bro.
My 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Lisa said it. This stuff sounds good, but in evil hands later down the road could be really bad. And who's to say that he won't abuse it or whatever, but a lot of it does sound good. But did you hear some of the stuff that he's saying? We're talking about like major executive power and changes. But that, if you listen to the terminology there, that's actionable, hyper specific things that would, in theory, be an avenue to truly weed out tons of the government. 100,000 federal employees. I mean, monitoring the intel agencies to see if they're spying on us. Now, do we actually think that's true? No, I think that QAnon itself is a military operation to actually spy on people and to gather intel on dissidents and to help put people in different groups and to also make sure they sit on their hands and believe that stuff is coming for them and to trust the plan. But they're really just gathering logistics of exactly who knows what and who ends up where and exactly who the dissidents are, right? But that one sounds pretty crazy. And then here is the last one that we'll watch.
Past generations of Americans pursued big dreams and daring projects that once seemed absolutely impossible. They pushed across an unsettled continent and built new cities in the wild frontier. They transformed American life with the interstate highway system. Magnificent it was. And they launched a vast network of satellites into orbit all around the Earth. But today, our country has lost its boldness. Under my leadership, we will get it back in a very big way. If you look at just 3 years ago, what we were doing was unthinkable. How good it was, how great it was for our country. Our objective will be a quantum leap in the American standard of living. That's what will happen. Here are just a few of the ways we can do it. Almost 1/3 of the landmass of the United States is owned by the federal government, with just a very, very small portion of that land, just a fraction, 1/2 of 1%. Would you believe that? We should hold a contest to charter up to 10 new cities and award them to the best proposals for development. In other words, we'll actually build new cities in our country again. These freedom cities will reopen the frontier, reignite American imagination, and give hundreds of thousands of young people and other people, all hardworking families, a new shot at home ownership and, in fact, the American dream. Another big opportunity is in transportation. Dozens of major companies in the United States and China are racing to develop vertical takeoff and landing vehicles for families and individuals. Just as the United States led the automotive revolution in the last century, I want to ensure that America, not China, leads this revolution in air mobility. These breakthroughs can transform commerce, bring a giant infusion of wealth into rural America, and connect families and our country in new ways. Likewise, through our Strategic National Manufacturing Initiative, which is going to be very big and very, very successful, we will turn forgotten communities into hives of industry, producing the goods we will no longer import from China. We will also have a major initiative on lowering the cost of living with a special focus on lowering the cost of a new car and lowering the cost to build a single-family home. And they will be beautiful homes. And I will ask Congress to support baby bonuses for young parents to help launch a new baby boom. Finally, I'll challenge the governors of all 50 states to join me in a great modernization and beautification campaign, getting rid of ugly buildings, refurbishing our parks and our public spaces, making cities and towns more livable, ensuring a pristine environment, and building towering monuments to our true American heroes. Very importantly, I will also make sure all of these new places are safe. We love and cherish our police. They will do the job the way they have to. It is time to start talking about greatness for our country again. I will dramatically increase living standards and build a future that brings our country together through excitement, opportunity, and success. Thank you very much.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, I get that might have been kind of boring at times, but anyway. So, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this other video of what he just announced since he's been president. And it's just pretty crazy. Okay. Check this out. I mean, obviously, this is the guy, Operation Warp Speed. People making excuses for him. They got all kinds of conspiracies, or, oh, he didn't know. He's still bragging about it to this day, dude. Get a grip. Okay. But here we go. Just a couple days in. Again, Trump, Trojan horse, ushering in an alleged illusory golden age. It will be major improvements, major technological advantages and conveniences and advances. But what is really going on underneath the hood? Well, it's a whole brand new system. Everything is up to date. It's all digital. It can all be used for digital surveillance. It can all be hooked up to AI. It can all be used to do all kinds of things that would absolutely blow your mind. And this guy right here is on that I'm about to play for you that Trump just introduced before this video is going to be playing. He's literally on record talking about how they're developing an AI surveillance system, and I'll break this all down in like the future stream. That's like the presentation. This guy, this same guy, talking about how they're going to develop this huge AI surveillance system that monitors everyone, and everyone will be on their best behavior because this thing will know everything and track everything and even be able to predict future behavior. So everyone's going to be on their best behavior. That's what this guy says. Think about that. We're talking about a gigantic like just a prison, a giant artificial intelligence surveilled and monitored prison that tries to monitor everything so precisely and so closely that it's documenting all of your behavioral patterns to predict what you're going to do. You better be on your best behavior. That's so dystopian and totalitarian and Orwellian, and it's just insane. Okay, this is the same guy. Okay, so Trump brought this guy up, introduced him to everyone 3 days into his presidency. So for all the cope out there, talking about how I have something derangement syndrome, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I just have basic pattern recognition, and I'm not so emotionally invested into my bias that Trump's going to be my hero. I don't look for some external savior in some dude. Then I'm able to actually see this. I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Cancer tumors, little fragments of those tumors float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again, using AI in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Thanks.
How's that not super creepy and weird? Okay. So I'm going to show you more of the video so you actually know what that is. This is so creepy. So that guy that was just speaking about that, okay? Let's check out what else this guy had to say here. Same guy. Trump ushers him out, introduced him to everyone. We're going to watch what Trump had to say about that whole thing. This is such a joke. If you didn't know, if you were in denial, I mean, and once I make the actual presentation, I mean, come on, but I'm trying to ease you guys into it if you're not aware.
Absolutely lock down schools. Securing schools, we think we can absolutely lock down schools so that dramatically reduce the case of anyone being on campus that doesn't belong on campus, and immediately alert, the second someone pulls out a gun, immediately alert, use AI cameras to immediately recognize that. But we keep everyone off campus that doesn't belong on campus. The police, another thing, body cameras. We completely redesigned body cameras. Our body cameras cost $70. Normal body camera costs, I don't know, $7,000. Our body cameras are simply lenses, two lenses attached to your vest, attached to the smartphone that you're wearing. And we actually take the video that the police officer is, by the way, and the camera's always on. You don't turn it on and off. And by the way you turn it on, you can't turn it on. I'm going to the bathroom. Oracle, I need 2 minutes to take a bathroom break, and we'll turn it off. The truth is, we don't really turn it off. What we do is we record it so no one can see it, but no one can get into that recording without a court order. So you get the privacy you requested, but a court order, if you get a...
How insane is this? Okay, so if you get a court order, like what, this guy says these things like it's just normal. So the camera never goes off. Okay, unless you say you use the bathroom. You tell us Oracle, I need to use the bathroom. Okay, then we cut it off. We don't really cut it off. It's always recording. But you can't get it unless you get a court order. Oh, so let's put, this is all this whole thing is, by the way. Everything Trump's doing, everything Trump's connected to, put tons of power into the state, into the government. And how can you trick the side that hates big government, that's always for smaller government, into doing that? You need someone like Trump, bro. And you need to make the opposition to Trump so outlandish that you can utilize the tribalism of politics to get them to believe they're combating that. They're saving America. It's a protective defensive measure against the lunacy on the other quote unquote side. So that the solutions, which do in fact solve those problems that are just wild and Again, they made the problem so insane that anybody with a pulse that's even slightly competent and honest and has any morality would be like, we got to fix that. I think that their frustration got to where it's like, we can't even get everyone to understand that those things clearly need to be fixed or reined in, right? But for the most part, they did. They were so egregious. You get this side that normally would want to would really want to limit the government. All of a sudden, that side is the side that's represented by a guy named Trump that's pushing in all the technological advancements, all the renovations to the system, the upgrades to the system that make the government more powerful than ever, inconceivably more powerful than ever. And all of these things are like that. Oh, we're going to put the entire education system into the hands of the government. We're going to update the surveillance system and have a digital ID tracking system in hands of the government. We're going to record and document everything and all. You just need a court order. Oh, just a court order. So people don't realize that all of these things that are being used in terms of executive power are utilizing the government, putting more power into the government and safeguards on certain things. They're going to do the same thing with free speech, by the way. And I called that in 2019 that Trump's going to come in and be like this savior for free speech. I think he actually has a video of it. I just saw a title of it. I haven't watched it. But I said Trump's going to come in and claim to fix free speech. But what is he going to do? He's going to use the government. It'll be like an internet bill of rights. And so everyone has free speech on the internet and the government's going to enforce it. Now, what did you do? You signed away to the government in control of speech. It's brilliant, right? It's evil, but it's brilliant. So, all right, anyway, let's keep listening to this guy. Pretend he's not insane, I guess.
The court order, we will, judge, can order, I want to look at that, this so-called bathroom break. If there's something comes up, and plus I'm going to lunch with my friends, or going in an hour for privacy with lunch with my friends. God bless. We won't listen in unless there's a court order. But it's interesting. But we transmit the video back to headquarters. So headquarters and AI is constantly monitoring the video. Remember this terrible case in Memphis where the 5 police officers basically beat to death another citizen in Memphis? Well, that can't happen because it would be on TV at headquarters. Everyone would see it. Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The cars have cameras on them. I think we have a squad car here someplace. But those kind of applications using AI, if we can use AI, and we're using AI to monitor the video. So if that altercation that occurred in Memphis, the chief of police would be immediately notified. It's not people that are looking at those cameras, it's AI that's looking at the camera. No, you can't do this. It would be like a shooting. That's going to be an event that's immediately, an alarm's going to go off, it's going to be, and we're going to have supervision. In other words, every police officer is going to be supervised at all times.
Okay. So you heard him say that everyone's going to be on their best behavior. He goes on. It's like a longer speech. That's just a clip. Okay. Here is Trump introducing that guy that we just heard talk a second ago about the mRNA and using AI. This is 3
It's an
days
honor
into
to be-
Trump's presidency, bro. Okay. You want to know what he's really up to. And by the way, they use the same cover that Elon used. And what does Elon say? Elon says, so yeah, AI is very concerning. Basically, it's like playing with the devil. And you're basically letting the genie out of the bottle. You're letting the demon out. And, you can be optimistic and hopeful. And I think I can rein this in. But I don't know if you've ever seen how the Exorcist movies work. Ha ha ha. And his justification for working on and working with AI is that everyone else is going to do it. We might as well do it. And it's so dangerous. We have no idea what to expect. It can totally get out of hand. It can turn on us. It can be the end of mankind. But they're going to do it anyway. We should do it and try to regulate it and try to make it safe the best that we can. So since everyone else and all the other enemies are going to utilize this thing that can get super out of hand and not properly supervise it, that can be a major problem. And he calls it letting like a demon out, demonic. You know, the same guy that wears upside down crosses and the Hellboy demonic literally dresses up like a demon. I think that's funny and makes it his profile picture on X for like many months. That guy wants to put a chip in your brain. That guy. Says it's a simulation and claims that he's going to go to Mars. And his grandfather was arrested for technocracy. His literal grandfather was arrested for technocracy, found guilty, appealed it, won the appeal, and got like a $50 fine. Technocracy, you know, where you want to implement a technologically run government. Computers basically reign over you, a technocracy. His grandfather was arrested for technocracy. That same guy, the same guy who claims that he's going to take people to Mars, not a place you can go to. I hate to break it to you. No one's going to Mars. I hate to break it to you. Right? But you have Werner von Braun, SS officer, the Nazi regime brought over here in Operation Paperclip, writes a fiction novel called Project Mars in 1947. And it literally has the main character's title as Elon. And he founds the first civilization on Mars. And you fast forward 2025, we got this guy Elon Musk supposedly going to be the one to found the first civilization on Mars. Just a huge coincidence. Want to put a chip in your brain. The richest person in the world, most military contracts in the world. Blah, blah, blah. We covered him at the beginning. Just checks all the boxes of every major technological update of every sector that would be needed to truly create an Orwellian, dystopian, technocratic slave state. And who's he team up with? President Trump, the guy that's been the hero, that's been able to woo all these people emotionally out of despair. They're so desperate for someone to come save the day. It's brilliant, but it's also very easy to see if you remove your emotions and you utilize logic and pattern recognition. The guy that everyone thinks is a hero, the guy that is going to do tons of good things, and that's how he's going to win everyone over. He's the Trojan horse, right? Trump is the Trojan horse to usher in this new system. 3 days in, again, just a reminder, Operation Warp Speed still brags about it. Oh, he just got tricked. He just messed up. No, he still brags about it to this day. He brags about it. 3 days in, he introduces this.
Be here today. We have first full day as president. We're back. And we had a great first term, but we're going to have an even better second term. And I think we're going to do things that people would be shocked at. We're starting off with tremendous investment coming into our country at levels that nobody's really ever seen before. And they're very happy with the fact that I won the race and that they feel confident in their investments. And it's big money and high quality people. So my first day back from having a nice life, it's my honor to welcome 3 of the world's leading technology CEOs. And in the case of Larry Ellison, it's well beyond technology. He's sort of CEO of everything. He's an amazing man, an amazing business person. But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi-san, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say the by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor, and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want, where they'll build at the plant, the AI plant, they'll build energy generation, and that will be incredible. But it's technology and artificial intelligence, all made in the USA. Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures. I was in the real estate business. These buildings, these are big, beautiful buildings. Are going to employ a lot of people. And physical campuses in locations currently being scouted nationwide. They're making their choices of locations. I think they have their choice. I'd like to ask Larry, Sam, and Masa to say a few words and just talk about a little bit about what they're doing. And if you have any questions, and then we'll go into a couple of other subjects also. But this is, to me, a very big thing, $500 billion Stargate project. I think it's going to be something that's very special. It'll lead to something that could be the biggest of all.
You lead to something that could be the biggest of all. $500 billion. Stargate. So there you go. $500 billion. They're building colossal data centers. Yeah, you don't say. The same guy who said they're going to be just constantly documenting everything around the clock with the police. You mean like a police state that's basically updating and upgrading with artificial intelligence to surveil everything, and citizens are going to be on their best behavior because they're going to know that everything's documented, and we're going to have the cameras on the cars and on the police, and everything's going to be rolling 24/7. And they go on to talk about how it can basically predict future crimes, right? If you get enough into these data centers feeding it to AI, they're talking about how they can predict future illnesses. So they can take a blood sample, what amounts to a blood sample, and tell you that you're supposedly going to develop cancer or develop a tumor in the future, and then develop an mRNA vaccine specifically for you that they can give you within 48 hours, utilizing artificial intelligence. This is the guy, 500 billion. He's happy to announce it like it's a good thing. 3 days into his presidency, he introduces a company called Stargate. Guys, it's very obvious, and he's teaming up with the guy that is clearly doing all of this. Now, there's a huge layered spiritual component to this as well, in terms of all these Jewish rabbis calling him the Messiah, all these people claiming that he's working on behalf of God, and he said he got his life saved because God wants him to save the world. That's what Trump said. That Trump saved his life whenever he was supposedly shot in the ear to save the world. Very crazy stuff. So, anyway, it's 1:30. I'm gonna wrap this up because I wanted to introduce the idea, cover a few things, show you guys some of the video. I'll put together like a presentation that has everything with all the receipts, and just so you can really see the picture here. Because as I'm going through each sector, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're checking every box. And if every single box sounds really good in many ways, it fixes a lot of the problems. It is an update, it's an upgrade. And then you see, wait, think about everything that can be utilized in terms of abusing that. So I'm going to break down the whole idea, all the stuff that he's doing with like a little presentation. And then we'll just occasionally keep up to date with exactly how that's all going. I mean, I feel like we have to do that. So it's like, it's world events. I stay completely out of politics for the most part. This is totally different. This is major world events. We're witnessing a huge psychological operation, and you should know that. And if you're super anti-Trump for but these low-level reasons, you're going to fall for all these updates that everyone on both sides is going to start to agree with, and a lot of the evil that's going to be combated, everyone's going to kind of agree with. If you just love Trump no matter what, and he's like your savior, you need to step back and really look at what you're talking about and realize what you're talking about. You're talking about a guy that's teamed up with Elon Musk, ushering in, this huge new system. And then I'll show you one more thing here. Okay, so the day after the day after Trump wins, this is what this guy posts right here. Novos Ordo Seclorum. Day after Trump wins, 44 million views when this screenshot was taken. Novos Ordo Seclorum, Elon Musk. That, of course, means New World Order, right? That's on the back of the dollar. This is from like 2018. Novos Ordo Seclorum on the back of his freaking jacket at the gala in 2018. With this creepy girl who sings a song that says, "People say that we're insane, but AI will reward us when it rains." This is his baby mama, has a song. Her name is Grimes. "People say that we're insane, but AI will reward us when it rains. Come on, baby. They say that you're not even alive if you're not backed up on a drive. Go ahead and upload your mind." And then it just says, submit, submit, submit over and over. That's the song she made about AI reigning over the entire world to connect your mind to AI and back up your consciousness on a drive and to submit to the supreme reign of artificial intelligence. She had the child of the guy who's sitting right here with Novo Order Seclorum on the back of his jacket, wants to put an actual chip in your brain, wants to put a robot in your house, wants to have you in a car that's basically like iRobot that just drives wherever it wants to, so it can just take you to the station. If you broke the rules, your social credit score is a little low, just detour, we're going to take you to the station. Oh, you're not allowed to drive today, just cut it off. If you ever watched iRobot, he's like the one guy that kind of rebels the system, and so the robots or the car sucks the steering wheel in, doesn't let him drive, and starts taking him to kill him, basically, or tries to kill him, right? That's who she had the baby of. We're talking about this guy who then, as soon as Trump wins, after all of his support for him, endorsing him, campaigning for him, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Then, of course, Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. He's put in charge of that, which is basically to cut the fat of a lot of the government spending. So you got Elon Musk here, who makes more than anyone ever in terms of military contracts, receives more money in military contracts than anyone ever in government contracts. Building a Skynet above you, a surveillance system that's floating all above you. There's a connected surveillance system above you. And he's building tunnels underground. I mean, bro, you gotta admit, it's pretty crazy. Why is he putting New World Order as soon as Trump gets in? And then why is he wearing that same phrase on the back of his jacket in 2018, back when they weren't even publicly cool like that? So I think people may not see the bigger picture here. I'm sure that you can kind of cope and act like it's no big deal or try to downplay it. But you need to realize that we're talking about very big money. We're talking about companies that have developed these plans and these companies for many, many, many years. And you don't just throw around hundreds of billions of dollars for no reason. Okay, there's a very sophisticated plan, and it is clearly shifting us towards a new updated system, a technological update, right? A technocracy. That's what's being built right now, a technocracy. And we should really step back and kind of realize that can happen in a very expedited rate. And we're just a few steps away from them saying integrate with machine, because we can reverse aging, we can prevent cancer, we can combat cancer, we can, like, when they say they can reverse aging and they reverse cell degradation, and so you're not going to age, or they can fix elements like being blind or not being able to walk or not being able to speak or brain cancers or mental illnesses or whatever, people are going to be like, it's going to be a little painless, seamless surgery, in my opinion. At one point, it's going to like stamp in you. We're talking about some pretty dangerous stuff, and it's not like it's nowhere on the radar. Third day, Trump's like, hey, yo, Stargate, 500 billion, huge, colossal data centers that artificial intelligence will be running, gathering everyone's intel, right? In data, and then the person that he introduces to talk about that, that's in charge of it, is on record talking about how he's working directly with the state to basically create an artificial intelligence monitored police state and surveillance system, and that citizens are going to be on their best behavior. And then what does that guy talk about as like his main example of one of the things that they're doing as an example of what AI can do? Taking a blood sample using AI to see that you're going to have cancer and developing an mRNA vaccine within 48 hours. I mean, dude, and of course, mRNA, come on, bro. And we'll get into that. Obviously, I think YouTube's probably still super lame and tripping about that. So we'll be able to talk more in depth about that. Maybe the next stream I do where I break all this down, we'll go pretty hard, or just go as far as we can, then we'll pop over just on Rumble. All right, cool. Let me see if we got any super chats, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Nick Carey, thank you for the $10. Love to hear you tackle Jaren's recent globe proof. Seems compelling, but I'm probably missing some logic errors. Also, any comms with Professor Parks and the proof he was allegedly going to provide from the last debate. I don't know what alleged proof that was. I mean, you mean to Robert Bennett for the bucket experiment? No, he never responded with anything to that. If that's what you're talking about. Thank you for the $10. I don't know what recent globe proofs Jaren's talking about, other than he's saying that he's talking about the sun. And the sun didn't prove that the Earth was a globe. That's how the stream is about. Obviously, I'll talk about it more in depth very often. I've talked about it a ton already on Discord, but super fluidity of naughtiness. Thank you for the $10. Tuned in late. I don't think it's even possible that they fooled you with high-tech AI hologram magic. Too many folks project fake/stage movie phenomenon into real-life scenarios, addicted to movies. Yeah, I mean, it's like exciting and maybe convenient. People have a bit of a bias. I don't think that it was anything other than the sun. I pulled a solar filter out. I looked at it. People were saying, "Oh, they can fake that." I mean, okay, bro. I need some more evidence. But yeah, thank you for $10. Lukey Rants, thank you for the $20. Love the rants. Glad you had a break and you're definitely back. I'm very grateful, excited for your future streams. Cheers, mate. Thank you, man. Much love. Yeah, I had to take a break. Lots of stuff going on, lots of big decisions. I felt like with everything that was happening, I was just trying to see what the right thing to do was. Like, was the creator trying to show me to step away indefinitely? Was he showing me he wanted me to do something else? Was he showing me he wanted to go a different route? I just didn't know. And yeah, I kind of explained this on my Kofi members only stream, but like to keep it really simple, I only do this because I felt led to do it, and I'm really passionate about kind of like the attack on children and how they manipulate and warp the mind of children, and they convince them that they're insignificant and stuff, when in reality, the evidence has shown the exact opposite, and that where they reside is incredibly important and special, and it's in the center of everything, and they didn't only, like, tell them that it was another way. They hid all that evidence, they hid that fact, and they told them, "That's been disproven for a long time, trust me, bro," and they forcibly manipulated children in the way they view the world, and this goes far beyond cosmology, but cosmology is an overarching, like, who are we? Why are we here? Where are we? Question, and the nature of existence. So I'm just super passionate about that. I got really passionate about ether, electricity, magnetism, dielectricity, because we're kind of controlled with energy in this world, like, with this AC electrical grid and stuff. And really, what is magnetism seems to be the key, and what is the ether? And I kind of went on a rant earlier about why that's important, because it's directly tied. It's like this medium where seemingly everything is directly tied to everything, is even like a modality, perturbation, disturbance, excitation within that. Basically, a gigantic energetic ocean. Everything's being stamped into, and so when you're lying about someone, and you're putting that intention into slandering and lying about them, and you know that you're lying about them, or you're trying to manipulate someone, you're putting all this energy and intention, this negative stuff, and it's going out from you and it's going into that ether, right? And so understanding that this place is like that and it's everything's super important and special and there's moral accountability. That's super important to understanding the value. So anyway, the point is that I got really passionate about that. And so when Bob reached out to me because he heard me kind of ranting about ether and stuff, then I considered it. I was hesitant. He's like, "Well, just come on as a guest." I'm like, "Okay, I'm open to doing that." And then before it even was time to come on, he's like, "You want to just be a permanent panel member?" He had watched some more of my stuff. I thought about it and I said, "Okay." And then he said I should make my own channel, and he had to kind of talk me into it. I didn't really want to do it, and I thought, "Oh, I'll just occasionally do it." And what I did was I covered all kinds of different topics all the time, and I thought that was kind of cool. I was working a lot, so it's just interesting where I've ended up with all that because I had to get talked into it. It wasn't really my thing, and we're here. And now I feel I have the possibility to really, continue building the platform and speaking about important things that matters. And I feel like the creator wanted me to, you know, because I prayed back then and I looked for signs and stuff. And I feel like I was given the confirmation that he did want me to. So with all that being said, I wanted to kind of double check because I didn't want to be unwise or selfish or think I know things. And so I was just taking a break and I was honestly giving a bunch of people to show their true colors. Um, and see what do they really think about me. Like if you have respect for someone or you think someone has a certain degree of integrity or something, you wouldn't just like take information from whatever source on its face without context or omit things and then make a character assessment or assume that you know things. Like when people saw that video of me crouching, for example, this is a complete lie. People saw that and then jumped. There are people that just jumped like, wow, oh my gosh, Austin tried to deceive the whole world by faking his brother because he wasn't really there. And it's like none of it was real. So I just wanted to sit back and I wanted to watch it. I wanted to let everyone show me who they really were, show me their true colors. I wanted to just have wisdom and patience and step back. And there was just tons of things going on all at the same time. There's so many things going on. So I just knew I needed to like step back. I needed to step back. And then I'm working on different things, trying to take care of stuff financially and kind of recover from all of that financially the best that I can. And contrary to a lot of the talking points, me streaming doesn't make me tons of money. So anyway, thanks for the super chat. I did step back and wanted to make my mind up about exactly what to do, how to do it, when to do it, what direction to go, etc. And I feel I have for sure been given confirmation at this point to come back and go super hard. So I plan on hitting the ground running, making content everywhere, all platforms, all kinds of different topics, debates, podcasts, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a very busy 2025. It's just going to start basically in February going forward. Um, and we'll just trust the creator to kind of provide and take care of stuff. So thank you for super chat. And you said love the rants. Thank you, man. All right. Shout out to Lukey. So flat out fudge, $5. The two guys on the side of him look like demons in disguise. They're trying to pass as people. Oh, well. I don't remember exactly which part that was, but that's funny. Because I probably agree. Daniel McLaughlin, thank you for the very generous $100 super chat. Much love, brother. Keep on the good work. Will do, man. Thank you so much. That's very generous, Daniel. Shout out to you. Much love. Welcome back, Austin. Thank you so much. We're so back, baby. Yeah, I'm going to go pretty hard this year. I hope you had a good payout. As an insinuation that I supposedly lied or something. Like, we get drunk one night and break something. What? Wait, you really caused some chaos for that trip? Yeah, no, and it's just so stupid. I thought I was trying to do it for everyone else, and I still know everything is in terms of that's going to be good, and I know a lot of people really want me to come and like put out a lot of fires and stuff, and normally I would, and I kind of did actively. I was like on Discord around the clock, and it started to weigh on me, and I was like, I was getting like very exhausted, and one of the first times I was starting to feel like overwhelmed. I was like, I'm pretty desensitized to stuff like that. And I'm not saying I couldn't handle anything. I could. It just like, there's something that felt weird about it. It's like, I could tell I was supposed to step away. I was supposed to step away for a little bit. Um, so I did, you know, and it's all good. I think there's something much bigger at play with all of this, and I'm actually kind of excited to be a part of it. And I mean, obviously, all kinds of slander is going on, but like for example, like I guess they're all running this narrative with I lied about not getting the Wi-Fi. I didn't lie about anything. Like we went to the other place. They set up the Starlink, and we asked for the Wi-Fi password. He said no. He said that they weren't giving the Wi-Fi. They weren't going to give the Wi-Fi password to anyone to make sure that it was going to work. But then a few minutes later, I noticed that all the Globers not only had Wi-Fi, they were using their like laptops and stuff. They all had the Wi-Fi, but none of the flat earthers had the Wi-Fi. And when we asked for the Wi-Fi, he said no. That's just a fact. And that he didn't give us the Wi-Fi password until many, many hours later the next day. And they saw me on my phone. I guess they saw me talking outside on Discord or something on my phone. And they're like, see, he lied. I didn't lie about anything. He didn't give us the Wi-Fi password. I then had to sneak behind his back to find it because Liz really wanted it, and people were waiting for her to like check in. So I went and found a way to get the Wi-Fi password, went and whispered it to Liz, okay, and then had to try to keep it a secret that we had it. Hence why I was outside talking for a second. So, and I haven't watched any of their videos because I don't need to watch any of their videos because I'm not lying about anything. So it doesn't matter what. It's just funny because they're like, "Oh, see, Austin was on the phone 1 hour after we got there, but he's acting like he didn't get the password for all this." I didn't. Why are you intentionally omitting that? I'm not gonna even let a bunch of those bad vibes come in here, but I'm just giving an example, right? It's like, you didn't give us the password, and then the many hours later the next day, I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna stream," and he's like, "Do you need oh, okay, do you want the Wi-Fi password?" So he offers me the Wi-Fi password, like, all the way the next day, not knowing I had it, and I just ignored him. I ignored him. I shook my head and, like, ignored him because we were all frustrated about that. That's why I went out of my way to go get it and, like, whisper it, and then Jaren didn't even have it at that point. So, that's what actually happened. Don't care about all that, but you can see why just with that one example, there's just, like, all these narratives and tactically trying to spin it like I'm lying when you know that that's what really happened, and you're pulling all that out and omitting it to try and, like, focus on something that or if you misrepresent it and don't give enough details, you can mislead people into thinking that somehow I lied and imply that actually you gave everyone the Wi-Fi password at the same time when you didn't. That's all so lame and weird to me. It's so like just gay and low vibration. And that's the way I started to feel about not really started. That's the way a lot of the whole Antarctica fallout was. It was just a bunch of stuff like that. Where it's like, I get it, man. If people don't care what you have to say and you're not can't really make content on your own, whatever. I guess that's what you need to do. But I got no hard feelings for you, man. I'm just gonna elevate above that stuff. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the world. I'm gonna start being active on X and on here, and we got some pretty cool things. And then this year, 2025, I'm like making myself really fully follow through on all of these things because I'm sure people have heard so many times. I got some big ideas, or I'll name the ideas, and I do have big ideas, and they end up being too big, and I'm not able to delegate any like help, right? Because I can't really pay anyone, and so because they're like huge ideas. Like, where audit NASA ends up costing me tons of money I don't have, and I can't even keep doing it. And I'm the only one that goes and does audits in person. But guess what? I did go talk to astronauts undercover more than once and catch them lying and have it recorded. I did build the entire website by myself. I did reach out to tons of different people, setting tons of things up. I did build another fake mock website. I did try to set up all these meetings and hold meetings. And then I did spend money out of pocket to buy all these domains and all the websites and the different programs and the platforms. I did all that. I just got overwhelmed. I couldn't run it all. And um, I'm in 2025. I'm knocking this stuff out. Like I have big ideas that I feel led to do, passionate to do, and we're doing them. We're absolutely doing them. When it comes to like that, like a Truther University, when it comes to helping homeschool, when it comes to helping out these human trafficking uh, victims, like we're doing it. We're doing it. So it's going to be very impactful 2025. It really is. Um, and shout out to all the people that help rally around me and want to help with that and want to help me out in general, like kind of just go in that direction, because obviously the whole Antarctica thing, and then all the fallout and all the attacks and like the financial aspect of everything, it was a bit overwhelming. But that's it. That's all I'm gonna say about it. You know, I did kind of explain a lot of it on the members only stream, but everything is all good. High vibrations, everything happens for a reason. Be at peace. I feel intuitively and on a deep level that I had to be patient, and that I'm going to be used to do some pretty big things this year, and I just want to not drop the ball, right? I want to live up to that responsibility with nobility and integrity and honor and stuff like that. So that's where we are. All right. Let me just double check and see if anything popped over, and we'll do a couple more private Ko-fi streams, by the way. Okay, I don't think anything was on here. All right, nothing on Ko-fi. All right, I love you guys. If you want to support Ko-fi.com/Witsit, I'm tired. So I love you guys. Try to have higher vibrations. Stop with all the drama and all the hate. But I also, one thing I had to really come to grips with is like, you guys are gonna do what you want to do anyway, man. You know, it is what it is. So I encourage everyone to try to be kind, try to exercise empathy, try to be honest, try to be patient, try to have some integrity. Be cautious throwing out accusations and slander. Try to have high vibrations and try to focus on helping people out and helping out, like, say, the children and stuff like that. That's the kind of mentality I think that we should have in general. That's what I want to transition to, and all the rest of it, the low hanging fruit, the low vibration drama, name calling, attacking, typical trauma responses, and all these stuff. We're just gonna, and everything's all good. All right. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So who cares what other people think? You know? And when they revile you for his name's sake, rejoice, because they did that to all the prophets before you. And what's true is rarely popular. What's popular is rarely true. Peace.
That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force them as simple that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature to mean extorted it. They forging it if news anchors informant to informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we courting ships, important gifts. Of course it is what extortion is, in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks. We ignoring which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?